Chapter 1354. Lotus Sun connected her laptop to the printer and printed out all the sketches she had drawn. They were of Wang Ling's face from various angles, and in just a few minutes, her desk was covered with them. I actually drew so many sketches of classmate Wang Ling. The girl blushed and shyly buried her face in the pile of paper. Although they were all sketches of Wang Ling, none of them were complete. This was because Lotus Sun had learned about the Great Shielding Spell from Audiobook in the Buddha Golden Lotus. Once the protective mechanism was activated, her sketches would turn into a pile of mosaics. So in order to prevent this from happening, Lotus Sun hadn't finished the sketches. Classmate Wang Ling with ellipses on his face was also very cute. The girl flipped through the portraits and saw a few sketches that she had highlighted. She remembered now. She had drawn them on Palm Cliff, Heaven Puppet. In addition to the pictures, there were also some words she had written. Today, a groundhog brought me to Earth 1 second later, but I didn't feel the slightest bit afraid. Because I believed that classmate Wang Ling would definitely come to save me. Don't be afraid, I'm coming, classmate Wang Ling. The message you left for me in the shadow may be 2 sentences I will never forget. Then, you broke free of all the shadows and appeared in my world like light. What I wrote is too mushy. The girl blushed as she finished reading the words in the pictures. She couldn't believe that she had actually written something like this. She couldn't bear to read any more, but curiosity kept driving her to flip through the messages left behind. Senior Audiobook, he actually called me Master's wife. It was a picture of her returning to Battle Sect after Wang Ling had rescued her from the groundhog. Like a weeping beauty, Audiobook had thrown himself at her and loudly called her Master's wife, in front of everyone. This incredible scene appeared in her mind as her memories kept coming back to her. In a split second, 2 streams of hot steam gushed out of her ears. I have to cool you down. Otherwise, it will be dangerous. Sun Yinger appeared and obediently sat on the edge of the soft bed, swinging her slender legs. Release steam from your ears. This was the effect of the cooling spell, and Sun Yinger would perform it on his behalf depending on the situation. Lower the temperature, your temperature is too high now. A girl in love has to keep a cool head at all times in order to win in the end, right? Sun Yinger giggled. That stinky Wang Ying wants me to protect you. So sometimes, some necessary measures will be taken. You're still protecting me. Aren't you always being bullied by Wang Ying? Lotus Sun also laughed. Bully? No way. I will definitely turn over and become the master, and fight with him to the end. Sun Yinger said resolutely. But as she said this, she suddenly felt that her body was indeed a little uncomfortable. It was all because Wang Ying's planet-knocking art was too powerful yesterday. You don't feel well. Do you need me to give you a massage? Great. Rong Rong is the best. Muah. Sun Yinger rushed over and kissed Lotus Sun on the cheek. It's all this Death King's shadow's fault. 406 times. Finished in one night. My back hurts from the collision. Lotus Sun, Sun Yinger, hey. Rong Rong. Why is your face red again? Ha! Eat my cooling spell. Elsewhere in Battle Sect, Old Man Sun and Audiobook had arranged to meet in the true venerated Great Hall. After exchanging greetings, they took their seats. A Battle Sect disciple came over to serve them tea. After the tea was served, the disciple tactfully withdrew and closed the door. He made sure that no one would disturb them in the Great Hall. Director Zhua, I'm here today for one thing only. I'm a straightforward person and I don't beat around the bush, so I hope that you can be honest with me. Old Man Sun smiled. As for the benefits, I'm sure you'll get them as well. I know that the Alliance of 10,000 Schools is about to elect a new leader. If you don't hide anything from me, I'll do my best to garner votes for you. Audiobook smiled. Mr. Sun, you're exaggerating. Sugar-coated bullets don't work on me. I want to hear your question first. If it involves a friend's secret, I naturally won't say a word. As expected, Director Joie is a loyal man. Old Man Sun nodded. What he had said just now was just a test, and Joie indeed hadn't disappointed him. Actually, whether or not he got the answer he wanted from Joie, Old Man Sun would still help him in canvassing for votes. He knew that Joie had also put in a lot of effort behind the scenes in Lotus Sun's matter this time. There was no way he, Sun Yuan, would not return this favor. Don't worry, Director Joie. What I want to discuss this time isn't your friend's secret. It's Director Joie's own secret. Old Man Sun smiled. Joie's expression froze slightly at these words. His secret was none other than his relationship with Wang Ling. Could it be that he had already been exposed? That shouldn't be the case. Joie frowned. So, Mr. Sun, what do you want to ask? In such a short period of time, Director Joie was able to rise to the position of Director of the General Administration of 10,000 schools and repeatedly perform miraculous feats. He is deeply favored by Secretary Sun of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools. In fact, I'm here this time to find out more about student Wang Ling, Old Man Sun, so, I need to confirm whether the relationship between Director Joie and student Wang Ling isn't as simple as it seems on the surface. Joie's expression darkened. Student Wang Ling and I are just a normal senior and junior brother. The same as student Lotus Sunday, not necessarily, Director Joie. At that moment, Old Man Sun chuckled. Since I'm here today, I'm definitely prepared. I never fight when I'm unprepared. I'm certain that Director Joie and student Wang Ling's relationship isn't as simple as it seems. Joie, where on earth did you get this information, Mr. Sun? It's just the result of a precise analysis of the information I've gathered. Hearing this, Old Man Sun chuckled. So, Director Joie, just admit it. Joie feigned ignorance. Admit what? Old Man Sun, you. Student Wang Ling Shifu. Am I right? Joie. P.S. I've seen your reaction regarding the issue of blocking the Immortal King web version. This is actually an anti-piracy measure. If you want to be the first to see updates, you can only do so through the Chidian reading app. I know that there are a lot of Immortal King chapters, and some of you can't afford to read pirated versions. I hope you don't publicize it, and can just read it secretly. But if you've caught up with the latest chapters, I hope you can come to the original version and spend a few cents a day to support Pai Pai Ku's creation. The more readers there are of the original version, the better the motivation to create. Smiley face angle _ Chapter 1355. Joie felt that this might be the biggest scapegoat he had ever carried in his life. It could only be said that Old Man Sun was in the end Old Man Sunday. This ability to avoid the right answer, it turned out that you were the legendary ultimate Maori Little Wulong. At least there were times when Little Wulong got it right, but Joie realized that the amazing thing about Old Man Sun was that he always seemed to be able to perfectly avoid all the right answers. Who would have thought that I would still be found out? At that moment, Joie rested his chin on his fingers and leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, pretending to be deep in thought. Now that things had come to this, he couldn't deny it. Although this was a huge scapegoat, now that things had come to this, he could only accept it. In the end, Director Joie admitted it. Old Man Sun looked like he had everything under control. He was absolutely confident that he would be able to make Joie admit to this matter, mainly because he had enough evidence on hand. How did Mr. Sun find out about this? Joie was very curious about this. You and classmate Wang have known each other for a long time, perhaps even before number 60 High's first Spirit Sword Exchange meet. As for what happened that day at the Spirit Sword Exchange meet, I specifically asked Rongrong about it. Old Man Sun began to make a brilliant deduction. Rong said that in your solo spirit sword performance, you chose classmate Wang's peachwood sword at first glance. This was actually a subconscious action, which means that the relationship between the two of you is no trivial matter. Jua, is there any other evidence? Of course there is. Old Man Sun nodded. Director Zhua defeated the Demon King Sky-swallowing Toad back then, and now that Toad has turned into a dog. There are so many students at number 60 high, so why did this dog stay at classmate Wang Ling's house? It's obvious that this is your greeting gift to classmate Wang Ling. It's true that this Toad is a Demon King, but you were the one who defeated it back then, so it definitely listens to everything you say. By putting it at classmate Wang Ling's house, you're actually protecting him. Old Man Sun laughed. This kind of master's concern for his disciple is a little too obvious. Hearing this, the corners of Jua's mouth twitched. Mr. Sun is really smart and brave. Of course, there's also the decisive evidence, which is Director Zhua's close visit to classmate Wang Ling's house. Mr. Sun is following me. Zhua frowned. It can't be considered tracking. It's just some technical methods. Old Man Sun said lightly, the metal pin to Director Zhua's chest actually has a tracking function. In the past, your badge location has frequently appeared at classmate Wang Ling's house. I'm afraid this has already surpassed the relationship between a senior and a junior, right? Hearing this, Zhua already couldn't help applauding. As expected of Mr. Sun, your reasoning ability leaves me in the dust, it's just some insignificant tricks. I was able to sit in this position because of my extraordinary reasoning ability. Old Man Sun couldn't help but sigh when he said that. In the past, he was dealing in elixirs. Now, he was dealing in stocks. Elixirs were considered a physical industry, and now there were fully automated production machines. Other than rare elixirs, most elixirs could be produced automatically by machines, and there was not much manual skill involved. Over time, Sun Yiyuan started to learn how to analyze stocks. The stock market was still the most exciting. Thanks to his logical analysis, LoveLore Water Curtain Group had made a lot of money in the last few years. Director Zhua, if you're interested, you can listen to my stock lessons. Of course, these are top secret lessons for the group. Old Man Sun knows about stocks. It's just some insignificant analysis, and it's Jiang Xiaoche who's in charge. It's my secretary whom Director Zhua met earlier. Zhua, although he didn't dare be 100% sure. He could roughly guess that this Jiang Xiaoche had most likely done the opposite of what Old Man Sun had said. Zhua couldn't help sighing in his heart. It really wasn't easy for LoveLore Water Curtain Group to grow to such a scale, he smiled bitterly. Mr. Sun came to confirm your identity with me today to ask about my disciple. Zhua braced himself as he said this. At the same time, he moaned and cried out in his heart, hoping that Wang Ling wouldn't blame him. Shifu. Disciple really didn't mean to take advantage of you. Even your father-in-law came to investigate. Disciple has to take the blame. Sun Yiyuan was delighted to hear this. He had long known that Zhua was a sensible person. It was also for this reason that he was deeply liked by Secretary Sunday. In fact, Sun Yiyuan felt that even if he didn't help Zhua pull in votes, he would sooner or later be able to sit at the top of the alliance on his own. I knew that Director Zhua was a smart man. Old Man Sun was overjoyed. What this old man wanted to ask isn't anything important. I just wanted to ask about classmate Wang Ling's hobbies. Or, his family's hobbies. Crispy noodle snacks, said Zhua. What? Sun Yiyuan thought he had heard wrong. It's a small snack, so that's how it is. Old Man Sun sighed. No wonder when classmate Wang went to the hospital to see how my family's Rongrong was doing, he didn't even look at the high-end snacks I had people prepare. Zhua smiled. But ordinary crispy noodle snacks are already very difficult to catch my disciple's eye. That's easy, I can find someone to order them. I'll hire the best noodle chef in the world to make them on the spot. Mr. Sun is really generous, but if you really do this, my disciple might be disgusted, I know. Old Man Sun said, classmate Wang likes to keep a low profile. I'll have a noodle chef appear next to him without anyone noticing. Jua, Sunny Yuan, then, what do classmate Wang's parents like? Jua, my disciple's father is an online entrepreneur. Oh. I know that. Monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Tips. Old Man Sun was excited. What's his pen name? I can arrange it for him right now. His pen name is Wang Situ. So he's Wang Situ. Old Man Sun was startled. Given his relationship with the head of state, he naturally knew that the latter had been chasing after the writings of someone called Wang Situ. It was just that Sunny Yuan had never expected the world to be so small. This Wang Situ was actually classmate Wang Ling's father. Chapter 1356. Jua hadn't expected Old Man Sun to be so concerned about his shifu. However, after the conversation, he felt that there was no need to be too wary of Sunny Yuan. Old Man Sun was indeed a deductive genius, but he was also someone who knew how to take care of other people's feelings. It was precisely because he knew his master's low-key personality that he had specially arranged for a time to ask him about the situation. Otherwise, with Old Man Sun's temper, he would have visited his in-laws with many bags. Strategy was a long-term plan. Feelings needed to be nurtured slowly. Old Man Sun understood this principle. The more he wished for his precious granddaughter to be able to truly obtain happiness, the more he wished for her. The more one couldn't use money and sugar-coated bullets to try to buy other people's feelings. This was an impolite behavior, and it was also a kind of disrespect to others. Thank you, Director Joie. My trip today wasn't in vain. I understand everything now. Before he left, Old Man Sun bowed respectfully to Jua. Director Joie, please rest assured about what happened today. Heaven and earth will know. I'll keep everything to myself. Mr. Sun, you're too polite. Jua smiled and returned the salute with cupped fists. Old Man Sun laughed out loud and shouted, "Immortal luck prospers." Then he flicked his sleeves and left. Looking at Old Man Sun's retreating back, Jua heaved a long sigh of relief. Are you sure Brother Ling won't be angry? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal walked out of the office. He had been eavesdropping on the side for a long time. As long as we have crispy noodle snacks, everything is negotiable. Mr. Sun is a smart man, he should have some tricks up his sleeve. Jua rubbed his chin. In fact, he didn't dare to guarantee what would happen next, elsewhere, Songhai First Military Medical Hospital. After being locked up for several days, Lotus Sun arranged for Zhao Qingxian to be bailed out and admitted to the hospital for a checkup. Earth was too dangerous. He had only just arrived here and had not done anything, yet he was already accused of forcibly molesting a male. How tragic could it be? Mr. Zhao, because we haven't been able to find your identity information so far, you are still under our strict surveillance. Before the bed, a police officer said with a solemn expression, after all the checks are done, you will be restricted to our specific apartment. You will be supervised by a special supervisor. Zhao Qingxian, then when can I get rid of the suspicion? That's hard to say. The police officer spread his hands and stared at Zhao Qingxian. Behave yourself. A doctor will come over later to examine your body. He wasn't worried that Zhao Qingxian would run away because Zhao Qingxian had the spirit shackles on his ankles. With most of his spiritual power restricted, Zhao Qingxian had nowhere to go. Helpless, Zhao Qingxian could only lie down obediently. As soon as the police officer left, Zhao Qingxian saw a seriously ill patient covered in bandages being pushed to the bed next to him by a female nurse. This person was none other than Fan Xing. After several surgeries by the hospital, Fan Xing's recovery was relatively good, but there was still a long time before he could fully recover. Of course, even if Fan Xing made a full recovery afterwards, Fan Xing was destined to have no happiness in his life. Brother. Bro. Zhao Qingxian tried to talk to Fan Xing. It wasn't because he was bored, but because he felt that he had found an opportunity from Fan Xing. Now, he was being inexplicably monitored by the police and had even been charged with a groundless crime. With such a serious crime on him, his plans on Earth would be greatly hindered. In addition, the spirit shackles on his ankles suppressed most of his spiritual power. It definitely wouldn't be easy for him to escape. But in any case, he was a domain of the gods cultivator. Even with the two anklet versions of the spirit shackles, it was still possible to cast some small spells. Now, Fan Xing's body was ravaged and he was delirious, but this gave Zhao Qingxian a sliver of an opportunity. So, I can only try. Temporary soul-switching technique. Zhao Qingxian suddenly had a plan in his mind. This spell was actually a simplified version of the possession spell. When cast on a delirious person, the success rate would be greatly increased. Once it was cast successfully, the soul exchange effect would be realized within 72 hours. So, it didn't matter even if the person wasn't satisfied with the body. After 72 hours, the body would be swapped back. This was a simple body-swapping game. Zhao Qingxian used a simple spell to determine that Fan Xing wasn't completely immobile, it was just that his depression was hindering his movements. As for the specific situation, he just had to wait for the soul exchange to be completed and personally appraise it. He still had some pills that could help Fan Xing recover from his injuries quickly. These were all life-saving items he had brought from the domain of the gods, and their effects couldn't be compared to those on Earth. This wasn't the first time he had thought of leaving this fat body. Zhao Qingxian had ingested a lot of sugar since he was young because of the half-moon robe Shengongli. This caused Zhao Qingxian's body to expand abnormally, to the point where he couldn't control or restrain himself anymore. The rules in the domain of the gods were strict, and Zhao Qingxian had never dared think of possessing someone. Now, on Earth, he had found an opportunity. Moreover, Fan Xing's facial features were fine. If he used this face to seduce Lu Qingyi, Zhao Qingxian felt that not only could he hide his identity, but he could also greatly increase his chances of success. Bro. I'm sorry. Zhao Qingxian thought about it. In the end, he finally made up his mind to make a move on Fan Xing. Fan Xing saw Zhao Qingxian reach out to him. His first reaction was naturally to struggle. But it was already too late. In an instant, a dazzling light burst out from the top of their heads. The soul exchange was complete. Fan Xing's soul returned to Zhao Qingxian's body, but his hand was still on Fan Xing's body. The young police officer turned pale with fright when he entered and hurriedly pulled Zhao Qingxian away. You pervert. I knew you wouldn't even let a man off. Fan Xing, who had been swapped into Zhao Qingxian's body, felt very wronged. He couldn't speak at all because Zhao Qingxian had cast a silent spell on him before the soul exchange, so Fan Xing couldn't speak for a while. Success. Zhao Qingxian had successfully seized Fan Xing's body. But after a simple inspection, the smile on Zhao Qingxian's face gradually froze. F***ck. This man actually didn't have balls. He had suffered a loss this time. Chapter 1357. The reason why the Zhao family was able to establish a foothold in the divine realm and rank in the top 10 was because of this. In fact, it was also due to the various strange techniques that the Zhao family had mastered. To put it bluntly, it was because their imagination was too wild, resulting in the increase of all kinds of strange knowledge. Then, based on the foundation of the heavenly Tao, they developed some strange spells. Some of these spells were very strong, but some were also very weak. After many years of experimentation, the head of the Zhao family had naturally mastered countless strange spells. Although Zhao Qingxian was his legitimate son, he was ignorant and incompetent. However, because he was ignorant and incompetent, even though he had inherited many things from him, most of them were just second-rate weapons. At this moment, Zhao Qingxian, who had swapped his soul into Fan Xing's body, was slightly at a loss for what to do in front of him. Fan Xing's facial features were passable. But as a man, he lacked important equipment. It still wouldn't work. However, after the temporary soul-swapping spell was activated, it couldn't be used repeatedly. He had to wait for the spell to expire before his body would automatically switch back. However, Zhao Qingxian couldn't wait any longer. He pulled out the various infusion tubes in his body and picked up the storage ring on the ground. This ring had been deliberately thrown in the corner by Zhao Qingxian before he swapped bodies. Although he had swapped bodies, the soul in Fan Xing's body was still Zhao Qingxian. Therefore, opening the storage ring was simply a piece of cake. Zhao Qingxian took out a heavenly restoration pill that was worth 1 billion immortal gold bars. He sneered. "A mere miscellaneous cultivator from Earth, you've really lucked out." He threw the pill into his stomach, and a warm stream of spiritual power flowed out of his blood vessels, nourishing his whole body and repairing his damaged body. Zhao Qingxian could clearly feel that his body's condition was improving. This was a life-saving medicine that he had brought down from the divine realm. He had brought a total of 6 pills. As long as he wasn't instantly killed by a palm strike and was still breathing, this pill would be able to save his life. Although Fan Xing's physical condition was somewhat bad, with all the fractures and meridians in his body. Although they had all been reconnected, to recover from such injuries, with the current level of spiritual medicine on Earth, even if he used the best medicinal herbs to nourish himself every day. Without 2 years of recuperation, it was impossible to recover to the standard of a normal person. But now, a single medicinal pill from Zhao Qingxian had instantly healed his injuries. He was still absorbing the medicine, but Zhao Qingxian could already feel that he had regained his ability to move. Then, he pulled up his pants to take a look, and there was still some disappointment on his face. Even such a miraculous medicine can't regenerate my organs. However, Zhao Qingxian had mastered many strange techniques, so it was not completely impossible to repair it. Looks like I have to make a deal with the river god. He thought of a secret technique. Although it was risky, it was worth a try. In any case, this body wasn't his right now. If it really didn't work, he could just wait for the time limit to run out and choose someone else to swap bodies with. Elsewhere, at the entrance of Lotus Sun's villa, a handsome monk was paying a visit by the huge fountain. Auntie Chiu, who was cleaning in front of the door, bowed very politely when faced with the monk who suddenly appeared. She smiled and said, "Master, if you are here to solicit alms, please follow me." As expected of Miss Lotus Sun's subordinate, Monk Jin Deng performed a Buddhist salute. He had always been polite to well-educated people. "Master, you know my young mistress. My Dharma name is Golden Lamp. Please inform her that I have something important to discuss with Miss Sunday." So it was the young mistress's friend. Chiu Shuyun marveled inwardly at her young mistress's wide circle of friends. "Please wait a moment, master." Auntie Chiu nodded. She immediately went to the door and raised the internal telephone to confirm the situation with Lotus Sunday. In less than half a minute, Auntie Chiu had received a definite answer. She strolled over to the monk and invited him in. The monk was brought directly to Lotus Sun's room by Aunt Chiu. Inside, the young girl was sitting on the sofa, and 2 maids were placing vegetarian pastries and tea on the coffee table. Their movements were swift, and it didn't take long for them to finish arranging everything for the reception. "Leave us. No one is allowed to come in until I call for you," Lotus Sun ordered. Yes. The two maids bowed and then quickly retreated. When there were no outsiders in the room, the monk said, Miss Sun is still as considerate and thoughtful as ever. Seeing that Miss Sun's complexion has returned to normal, this monk is also much more relieved. Master, please sit down. Lotus Sun maintained a smile on her face. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me, that I'm safe and sound this time, Master. I will definitely repay you in the future. What I've done is insignificant. If Miss Sun wants to thank someone, you should thank Ling Jinren. The monk smiled. A monk doesn't ask for anything in return. I didn't come here this time to ask for a gift in return, Miss Sunday, may I ask what is it, Master? Lotus Sun asked. This humble monk came here this time to ask what kind of magic artifact Miss Sun wants. Magic artifact. Miss Sun, have you forgotten? You're the champion of this year's Battle Sect face-shaping competition, and the first person to pinch Ling Jinren's face. As soon as the monk said this, 2 streams of steam whistled out of the young girl's ears like dragons. But very quickly, the young girl's rapidly rising temperature returned to normal under the effect of the spell. Sun Yinger emerged from the state of a shadow and turned into a real body. She suddenly appeared beside the girl and lay on the girl's knees with her limbs spread out. Monk Jin Dang, I think you should just buy an electric fan for Rong Rong. That way I won't have to use the cooling spell on her every day. Don't be rude. Sun Yinger's blunt personality had always been a headache for Lotus Sunday. You don't have to pay so much attention to etiquette in front of this humble monk. The monk smiled. He looked Sun Yinger up and down. If it weren't for the difference in hair color and personality, when the two of them sat side by side, the monk felt like he was looking at a pair of twins. Miss Sun can have whatever kind of magic artifact you want. This humble monk can do most of them. At that moment, the monk glanced at her. How about this? This humble monk can give Miss Sun a few directions. Directions? Yes. The monk nodded. Magic artifacts can be classified into 3 types based on their functions. Offensive magic artifacts, defensive magic artifacts, and auxiliary magic artifacts. This humble monk has just deduced that Miss Sun might need an auxiliary magic artifact. What do you mean, Master? Lotus Sun asked curiously. Doesn't Miss Ying have low back pain? This humble monk can create a magic artifact to relieve it, the monk said. But Ying's low back pain was caused by Wang Ying's wall-tapping spell. Although this humble monk has blessed Miss Sun's body, that doesn't mean she can do whatever she wants. What does that have to do with me? The monk said seriously, then is Miss Sun so sure that she won't hurt in the future? Lotus Sun, ? Chapter 1358. It could only be said that monks were monks after all. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to understand the deeper meaning behind a monk's words. Lotus Sun felt that if even monks became more reserved these days, then no one else would be able to. Miss Sun's face is actually so red, the monk felt that the girl might have thought of something strange. He could actually read minds, but he felt that he had to give the girl in front of him enough respect. It was impolite to casually read minds. But this also made it impossible for the monk to truly understand her thoughts when he faced her. He could only guess to solve the problem. What this monk means is that after this incident, Miss Sun will have to learn how to protect herself. In fact, the auxiliary magic tool I'm talking about isn't just for the waist, it can also be used on other parts of the body, the monk said. From what I see, Rong doesn't seem to like it very much. Isn't the best protection from offense? Monk, why don't you upgrade Rong's spirit sword? At this time, Sun Yinger suggested a new idea. Upgrade the spirit sword. The monk nodded. That wasn't a bad choice. Monk, this is my sword. The next moment, she opened her hand, and a beam of azure spirit light shot out from her palm. She summoned Mysterious Sea. After the battle on Nine Dragon Mountain, her mysterious sea group had suffered heavy losses. Although the group had already spent a lot of money on cloning, it would still take a long time for them to recover to the original 48 mysterious seas. Using the technique of cloning spirit swords to achieve a sword-spirit linkage with the main body, the monk saw through the secret hidden in mysterious sea at a glance. This could indeed greatly increase her battle strength, but at the same time, it would also put a huge burden on her body. Controlling so many spirit swords would greatly test the spirit energy and mental strength of the original owner. It was like a computer running multiple programs at the same time overheating. Over time, it might even cause irreversible damage to the body. Miss Sun, in the future, don't use cloned swords to perform a sword-spirit linkage. This monk has a better way, the monk said. Although the girl's body had been blessed by him and using the sword-spirit linkage technique wouldn't endanger her life, the monk didn't want her to use such a painful method to increase her battle strength. Does the monk have a better suggestion? She asked curiously. I can modify the main body of Mysterious Sea and turn it into a giant sword-spirit container. I can have it continuously replicate and clone itself in the container. In this case, it will actually achieve the effect of a sword-spirit linkage. The monk said, in fact, I think this is the ultimate evolution. As long as the modification is successful, Miss Lotus Sun's Mysterious Sea will never be destroyed. She only needs to control a single sword to summon billions of mysterious seas to do battle. You can do that. Lotus Sun covered her mouth in surprise. She knew how powerful the monk was, so she had no doubt that he could do it. These mysterious seas, which are constantly being duplicated in the containers, can also be combined to increase their combat power. As long as there are enough copies and clones, theoretically, Miss Sun's combat strength will have the possibility of unlimited growth. The monk said with a smile, although Miss Sun is only at the Foundation establishment realm, as long as you have this sword, this penniless monk can't guarantee that you can defeat 99% of people on Earth. Then does the remaining 1% belong to Grandmaster and classmate Wang Ling? Lotus Sun smiled. They must have brought us along, but there might be other experts. Tyrant nodded and replied, but to upgrade the Mysterious Sea, I still need 2 more things. What is it? I need missing to provide me with a law of splitting, the monk said. The idea of upgrading Mysterious Sea into a sword spirit super container was the monk's crazy idea based on Sun Yinger's Shadow Dao ability. However, this matter involved the secret of Sun Yinger's law. Tyrant thought that Sun Yinger wouldn't say it easily. In the end, the white-haired girl in front of him was much more straightforward than the monk had imagined. That's easy. Rong Rong and I are one. Helping Rong Rong is also helping me. All right then. The monk nodded. As for the second item, it's the Heavenly Dao magic cube that I obtained when I, Ling Jinren, went to wipe out the unspeakable a while ago. Since Miss Ying has agreed to hand over the nomological patterns, then this matter is settled. But isn't that classmate Wang Ling's thing? Lotus Sun frowned. Wouldn't it be bad to ask for it like this? Ling Jinren won't refuse. The monk said confidently, the Heavenly Dao magic cube is certainly precious, but in Ling Jinren's eyes, it's actually worthless. At this point, monk Jin Deng suddenly paused and turned to look at the girl. Compared with the Heavenly Dao magic cube, Ling Jinren actually knows very well that he has something more precious. What are you talking about, Great Master? Lotus Sun was a little embarrassed. Miss Sun, no need to be embarrassed. This poor monk thinks that Ling Jinren will have an epiphany sooner or later. You just need to be a little more patient. Aren't you a monk? Why do you look like you know so much? At that moment, Sun Yinger moved closer and couldn't help asking. Miss Ying, you may not know, but this poor monk was once an emperor. I had a harem of 3,000 beauties, of course I know. Great Master was an emperor. Lotus Sun was stunned. I don't feel anything else, just that my back hurts. Elsewhere, Xiao Qingxian borrowed Fan Xing's body. He snatched a jar of specimens from the hospital's biological dissection room, then quickly left the hospital. His first task was, of course, to fix his own shortcomings. Xiao Qingxian found the river closest to Songhai First Military Medical Hospital, and as soon as he reached it, he couldn't wait to start casting a spell. He was ready to summon the heavenly Tao River God. This was how cultivators in the domain of the gods generally conducted an equivalent exchange. Usually, it was the heavenly Tao River God who did this on their behalf. Not everyone had the right to meet the heavenly Tao Little Golden Man directly for a fair and equivalent exchange. Actually, even though it was called an equivalent exchange, only the heavenly Tao Little Golden Man could truly achieve it. Compared with the heavenly Tao Golden Man, most cultivators in the domain of the gods actually couldn't get anything out of the heavenly Tao River God, but now, Xiao Qingxian had no other choice. River God. River God. Please hear my call. In front of the river, Xiao Qingxian made a hand seal and muttered something. Whoosh! A slender figure soared into the sky from the calm surface of the river, following the sound. A handsome young man with phoenix eyes and long hair wearing a flower hairpin appeared in front of Xiao Qingxian. Droplets of water slid down the young man's well-proportioned muscles, giving off an intoxicating watery glow. His whole body surged with the supreme aura of heavenly Tao, and when he opened his mouth, Xiao Qingxian came back to his senses. Young Xiao Qingxian, did you throw this golden elephant egg or this silver elephant egg? An elephant. Xiao Qingxian was startled. Wasn't the specimen he had stolen a human's? Chapter 1359. Why was there an elephant specimen in the hospital? Xiao Qingxian's face darkened. In the next moment, he began to struggle. At this time, if he did not choose anything, then both the golden and silver eggs would be his. However, the problem was that if these two things were hung below, how could he walk? Even if he could walk, it would be easy for him to get into trouble. For a moment, Xiao Qingxian was in a dilemma. Because if he chose to lie or choose not to accept anything, he would be severely punished by the river god. Therefore, Xiao Qingxian sighed and could only tell the truth. Lord River God, these are not mine. My original intention was, you don't have to explain anymore. The handsome river god with phoenix eyes had already seen through Xiao Qingxian's heart. With a cold expression, he threw the golden and silver eggs in his hands into the river. Then, he looked at Xiao Qingxian with the aura of a boss. Do you understand the rules? Tianyuan Guixin pill. Xiao Qingxian gritted his teeth and took out 2 pills without hesitation. This is my tribute to the river god. 2 pills for 2, huh? Heh, you know what's good for you. The river god raised his finger and swept the 2 pills away. According to the law of equivalent exchange, the parts you lose are actually irreversible. Therefore, when I return the things to you, another part of your body will disappear randomly. But don't worry, the parts that disappear will not affect your life. This, Xiao Qingxian did not expect that he would be in such a situation after losing 2 pills. He wanted to ask the river god to return the pills to him, but the river god's expression quickly turned cold. Do you want to go back on your word? The consequences of going back on your word are very serious. Xiao Qingxian knew that he had no other choice. All right then. I only have one request. I hope that the river god will not make me bald. As for other parts, losing a finger or something is not a problem. You're quite open-minded. The river god chuckled. However, according to the principle of equivalent exchange, the parts that disappear are random. Even I can't control it. You better pray for yourself. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura on the river god's body suddenly changed. A strange feeling of the supreme Tao emanated from his body. The mystery of the mystery, the mystery of the door, In this place, all sorts of illusions were born. Feeling the power of the heavenly path river god at such a close distance, Xiao Qingxian felt as if the whole world had calmed down at this moment. In fact, every time he made a deal with the river god of the heavenly way, it was a great opportunity for him to experience the laws of the heavenly way up close. However, the duration of this feeling was too short, and it always gave people a feeling of wanting more. Transaction complete. About 10 seconds later, the river god opened his phoenix eyes again. Xiao Qingxian asked, "Did you succeed?" The river god nodded. "It's a success." Xiao Qingxian excitedly pulled open his pants to take a look. The next moment, it was as if he was struck by lightning. He was extremely shocked by the scene in front of him, Lord River God. The river god raised his eyebrows. "What is it?" Xiao Qingxian roared, "You put the eggs back and took away my youtiao. What's the use of this?" The river deity smiled. "From now on, you are the new old man with eggs." After saying that, he turned into a puddle of water and melted into the river, leaving Xiao Qingxian alone on the riverbank in the wind. Why am I so unlucky after coming to Earth? After who knew how much time had passed, Xiao Qingxian crouched down on the riverbank with his head in his hands. The expression on his face was one of pain, full of the mental breakdown of an adult. All of this was actually just as the monk had said at the beginning. As cultivators in the domain of the gods, life in the domain of the gods was too easy. In order to ensure that the younger generation's cultivation path would be more stable, the elders had paved all kinds of paths for them in advance. They were afraid that these descendants would trip on the road. The overly comfortable life had also caused these cultivators who had walked out of the divine domain to become mentally weak. Wang Zhen, Lu Qingyi, and the others had all suffered losses before. Fortunately, they had also grown very quickly. Their tempering on earth had made their hearts more resolute, their spirits more resilient, and they had become more tactful in handling things. Xiao Qingxian currently didn't have any of this growth. "Is it painful?" At that moment, a figure appeared behind Xiao Qingxian. This person wore a black cloak and had a neat black buzz cut. He had sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, and looked like a man who had walked out of a comic book. Xiao Qingxian didn't know this man. But this man seemed to know him, and seemed to know everything about him. The man stretched out his hand, and Xiao Qingxian was stunned by his jade-white hand with distinct fingers. It was hard for him to imagine that a man's hand could be so delicate. The other party stretched out a finger and lightly tapped his forehead. In the next moment, Xiao Qingxian suddenly felt that his missing part had actually returned. He was utterly astonished. "It's just an illusion, that's all." The man smiled. "Senior." Xiao Qingxian knelt down. "You're welcome." The man helped Xiao Qingxian up and was extremely gentle. "My name is Yang Shuangji. You can also call me Mr. Shuangji." Mr. Shuangji, Xiao Qingxian carefully mulled over this name, and at the same time, his expression was extremely astonished. "I don't know Mr. Shuangji. May I ask why Mr. Shuangji is helping me?" "Life is full of hardships, but it's nothing." The man called Shuangji smiled. At that moment, Xiao Qingxian noticed a string of Buddha beads around the man's neck. Each bead was the size of a walnut, which gave Xiao Qingxian a sense of déjà vu. This was because Xiao Qingxian seemed to have seen the vein patterns on it somewhere before. "Do you know your crime for going against the heavens?" At that moment, on the originally calm river surface, a solemn voice rang out like the illusory sound of the great Tao. Xiao Qingxian felt a piercing pain in his ears. Just as he was about to kneel on the ground, Mr. Shuangji, who was next to him, tapped his ear lightly and easily quantified this force. The handsome heavenly Tao river god who had previously disappeared reappeared and stared at the man who had suddenly appeared in front of him with a pair of phoenix eyes. Obviously, he was very dissatisfied with Mr. Shuangji's meddling. If you have the ability, you can go against the heavens. May I know what crime I have committed? Mr. Shuangji took a step forward, his body surrounded by golden light. The most sacred of Buddhist studies. The heavenly Tao River God was extremely surprised. Lord River God, please step back. You are definitely no match for me. Young Shuangji stood in front of Zhao Qingxian. I have fate with this person, so I will definitely protect him. You have broken the laws of the heavenly Tao. As a river god, how can I spare you? The phoenix-eyed river god was furious. His voice was indifferent and had a strong sense of majesty. In the next moment, the surface of the river began to boil. The laws of the great Tao intertwined and began to flow out. You overestimate yourself. Young Shuangji shook his head. Chi. He put his palms together, and a golden Buddhist light shot out from his hands. Before the river god could fully express his anger, it pierced through the skull of the phoenix-eyed river god. The Buddhist light crashed into the river god's body. Accompanied by astonishing energy, the heavenly Tao river god was shattered on the spot and instantly evaporated. Chapter 1360. The heavenly river god was destroyed in an instant. Zhao Qingxian's surprise could no longer be described in words. The Golden Lamp monk was the only Buddhist sage he knew. He didn't expect that Mr. Shuangji in front of him was also a Buddhist sage. Zhao Qingxian had already experienced Golden Lamp monk strength. Even before he came to earth, Zhao Qingxian still remembered the words his father left him. His father was afraid that he would come to earth and stir up trouble, so he left him a list of people that he must not provoke. In addition to Ling Jinren at the top of the list, monk Jin Deng's name was also on it. The list of people you must not provoke. At this moment, Mr. Shuangji smiled. His ability to read minds was as powerful as monk Jin Deng's. Mr. Shuangji's foresight is divine, just some small tricks. Young Shuangji said, "This list of yours is quite interesting. I didn't expect that even my senior brother's name would be on it." Mr. Shuangji, are you talking about Senior Golden Lamp? Zhao Qingxian was shocked. This young Shuangji before him was actually the junior brother of the Golden Lamp monk. Jin Deng is indeed my senior brother, but he probably doesn't know that I'm still alive. Young Shuangji casually said, maybe my existence is bad news to him. Because in this way, he would no longer be Master's sole successor. Zhao Qingxian did not dare to reply. Although young Shuangji claimed to be Golden Lamp monk's junior brother, Zhao Qingxian still felt that this person exuded a strange feeling from head to toe. Benefactor Zhao, if you think that my words are untrustworthy, then it's normal. One must always be on guard against others, but I believe that time and reality will prove everything. Young Shuangji carefully looked at the information on the list and couldn't help but smile. Benefactor Zhao, how about we kill all the people on this list together? Zhao Qingxian thought he had misheard. What are you talking about, sir? He didn't believe that the person in front of him would be so daring as to say such words. Don't worry, Benefactor Zhao. I've already renounced asceticism a long time ago. So killing a few people is just a basic operation for me. Young Shuangji said lightly, as if he was just talking about a few ants. I'm not even afraid of the heavenly Tao, and I even dare to go against the heavens. What's more, I've only killed a few people. But sir, you don't understand. Zhao Qingxian tried his best to stop young Shuangji's crazy thoughts. Although he hadn't witnessed Wang Ling's methods with his own eyes, because when Wang Ling had made his move in the domain of the gods back then, the pressure had been so strong that Zhao Qingxian hadn't been able to react at all before he had already passed out. He had learned about Ling Jinren from the Zhao family servants, several clan elders and his father. Before they left, the Zhao clan's clan leader had repeatedly warned them not to provoke this person. Naturally, Zhao Qingxian would not turn a deaf ear to it. He had come to Earth on his father's orders to curry favor with Ling Jinren, so there was no way he would do such a treasonous thing. Of course, Lu Qingyi was also very important. Furthermore, Lu Qingyi and Ling Jinren had an extraordinary relationship, so it was even more impossible for Zhao Qingxian to offend Wang Ling if he wanted to woo Lu Qingyi. I know what you're afraid of. At this time, young Shuangji said, the benefactor surnamed Wang on the list. If my guess is correct, all of this is a trick of my senior brother. Senior, what do you mean? Zhao Qingxian was puzzled. My senior brother has always been a liar through and through. Playing a two-man act is his usual trick. Playing a two-man act. That's right, my senior brother has created countless legendary characters. Back then, he was even given the title of Buddha sock puppet. Yang Shuangji said, senior brother has reincarnated so many times, dressing up as a woman, being an emperor, beggar, eunuch, dying fat otaku. He's experienced all kinds of things. With such rich experiences, it's definitely not difficult for him to create a character for himself. Zhao Qingxian immediately understood what was going on. Buddha's sock puppet, that was to say, Ling Jinren was actually Monk Golden Lamp's sock puppet. Zhao Qingxian was completely confused by this. Now, he was actually starting to be unable to tell which side was right. On one hand, he indeed hadn't seen Wang Ling's strength with his own eyes, and had only heard from word of mouth that such a ridiculously strong man existed. On the other hand, young Shuangji spoke resolutely, as if he was extremely confident in his deduction. This made Zhao Qingxian very puzzled. Young Shuangji's eyes gradually turned crazy. My senior brother's strength is unparalleled. If I wasn't still alive, I'm afraid that no one in this world would be able to restrain him. Apart from me, there can't be a human stronger than him. If there is, it must be his sock puppet. Zhao Qingxian, then sir, you mean, young Shuangji, I just need you to follow me for the time being, and then witness the moment my senior brother's plot is exposed. Zhao Qingxian, but I still don't understand why sir chose me, young Shuangji. Maybe you don't realize it, but you are a very important witness. Zhao Qingxian didn't dare believe it. Me? Your father sent you to Earth just to curry favor with the so-called almighties. But in fact, you don't need to curry favor with anyone. Young Shuangji couldn't help laughing when he said this. Everything is predestined, in short. If you follow me, you'll get everything you want. Then, I'm willing to give it a try, sir. Zhao Qingxian gritted his teeth. Very good. Young Shuangji nodded in satisfaction. First of all, our first step is to expose my senior brother's plot and destroy the sock puppets he created. Sir, are you confident? Of course. Young Shuangji laughed. No one can resist my azure pestle. Elsewhere, in the Wang family's small villa, the monk was in the middle of asking for the heavenly Tao magic cube. After guarding the shop with the king's eye, Wang Ling had played with the hexahedron like a toy for a while before putting it aside. Now that he heard that the golden lamp was going to be made into a magic weapon, Wang Ling didn't hesitate to give it to him. In any case, it was useless to him. Jinren's gift is too straightforward. The monk had thought that it wouldn't be easy to get the magic cube. At that moment, as he held the heavenly Tao magic cube in his hand, the expression on his face suddenly turned a little melancholic. For some reason, the golden lamp recalled how it and its little junior brother had fought over the magic cube. You have a junior brother. Wang Ling read the monk's thoughts and asked telepathically. Yes. My little junior brother. But he passed away a long time ago. And he used to be a magic cube enthusiast. Holding the magic cube in his hand, Monk Golden Lamp couldn't help but think of Wang Ling. He didn't think he was a particularly sentimental person. But for some reason, as he held the magic cube, he suddenly felt as if his little junior brother hadn't died yet. Are you sure your little junior brother is dead? Wang Ling asked telepathically at that moment. Monk Golden Lamp said succinctly, he's definitely dead. I scattered his ashes. Chapter 1361. At the mention of his junior brother, the monk's face was full of melancholy. As far as he could remember, Wang Ling had rarely seen this expression on the monk's face. It was obvious that the friendship between the monk and his junior brother back then was very deep. At that moment, the monk said, "Amitabha," and then said, "Let me tell you about my experience of scattering the ashes back then." Wang Ling, Monk Golden Lamp said, "Back then, my junior brother and I entered the temple together to break through the Mongolian maze that Shifu had left behind. Whoever passed would inherit Shifu's legacy. But halfway there, I was trapped by the maze of the past that Shifu had left behind." Hearing this, Wang Ling understood. This Buddhist maze of the past was probably based on the same principle as the repentance palm of the past, which the monk had used against the primordial heavenly Tao. If the victim didn't reflect on themselves, they would be trapped in the infinite illusion of the past forever. This was my Shifu's test for me, but I let him down. Monk Golden Lamp sighed. If my junior brother had left me behind and continued on, he would have become Shifu's successor. However, he sacrificed himself to get me out of my predicament. And then you became the ultimate saint of Buddhism? Wang Ling asked. No. The monk shook his head. This poor monk's current cultivation was obtained by relying on my own strength after I attained enlightenment. Although junior brother saved me, I didn't open the gate of destiny in the temple hole. Junior brother was more suitable to be my successor than I was. He sacrificed himself to help me get out of trouble. This poor monk will remember this kind of friendship for the rest of his life. That gate of destiny is still in the temple hall to this day, and this poor monk has never opened it. I don't know what Shifu left for us. Maybe it's some magic weapon? Or some Buddhist scripture. At that moment, the monk laughed bitterly. But since it's an inheritance, it can definitely help one of us become the ultimate saint of Buddhism. Saying this, Monk Golden Lamp noticed that Wang Ling was suddenly frowning, as if he was deep in thought. Lingzhenren? The monk asked. He rarely saw Wang Ling in a daze. If he did, something big was definitely going to happen. For example, the last time he had been in a daze, he had swapped souls with Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. Wang Ling came back to his senses. Nothing, Xiao Qingxian was taken into Yang Shuangji's inner world. At the same time, Yang Shuangji, who was in action, also began to carry out his plan to remove his name from the list of people you must not provoke. Apart from Wang Ling and the monk, who were first and second on the list, the other names were in no particular order. Senior, aren't you going to kill Lingzhenren? But why did you choose the last person on the list to attack first? Zhao Qingxian asked curiously in the inner world. Good dishes should be saved for last, Mr. Shuangji said. It was too meaningless to kill his own senior brother and senior brother's disguise too early. Thus, Yang Shuangji's idea was to get rid of all the other people on the list, and then finally deal with Monk Golden Lamp and Wang Ling. Since they could appear on this list, it was obvious that these people were related to his senior brother. The last person on the list, Lotus Sunday. This was the first target he wanted to kill. He was just a foundation establishment cultivator. He was at the level where he could destroy them with a single breath. However, Yang Shuangji did not know where the girl lived. Thus, he used his Azura pestle to determine the position. Zhao Qingxian, sir, what are you going to do? Yang Shuangji smiled. Just watch. He stood on a flat surface and placed the Azura pestle vertically on it. Then, he loosened his grip and the Azura pestle fell in a certain direction. It's that direction. This method of determining the position looked a little casual, but Yang Shuangji was convinced. It was the legendary Buddhist fate determining position method. You just had to silently recite the name of the person you were looking for. What was more convenient was that this list of people you must not provoke actually had photos of each person on it. Except for his senior brothers, Wang Ling's disguise, which had been blurred out, the photos of everyone else were very clearly listed next to their names. This undoubtedly made Yang Shuangji's search a lot easier. I think this girl isn't bad. If you like women, I think you can give her a try. Yang Shuangji chuckled. No, I only have Qingyi in my heart, there's no room for other women. Zhao Qingxian shook his head and refused. In the photo, Lotus Sun was indeed very beautiful, and her exquisite facial features could almost be described as impeccable. In Zhao Qingxian's words, this was the face of first love that all boys fantasized about. But as an infatuated man, he had already given his heart to Lu Qingyi long ago. The main reason he was willing to descend to earth this time was actually because of Lu Qingyi. I didn't expect you to be such a romantic, what a pity. Yang Shuangji smiled. Then I'll go first. In any case, I've already renounced asceticism and haven't touched a woman for a long time. Senior is thinking, that's right. I'll kill this girl first, then enjoy her while she's hot. The corners of Yang Shuangji's lips curled up in a wicked smile. Zhao Qingxian suddenly felt a little regretful. The person he was following didn't seem normal. He was too perverted. Most importantly, this kind of person was actually the most sacred of Buddhism. Was Buddha sure he wouldn't cry? Using the Azura Pestil's Buddhist fate-determining position method, Yang Shuangji very quickly arrived at the entrance of the luxurious villa where Lotus Sun lived. Too weak. In front of the door, Yang Shuangji sensed the aura inside the villa, and felt that the person inside was pitifully weak. But for a foundation establishment cultivator, he had to be a little more careful. Since he wanted to get close to a woman, he couldn't be too heavy-handed, or it would be very embarrassing if he slapped her into a paste. He raised his hand and aimed his palm in the direction of Lotus Sun's bedroom. He tried to use the force of his palm to lure the girl out of the room. In the end, at this moment, in the void, there was a wave of powerful aura that followed the direction of his palm force and attacked in reverse. Like a long river flowing backward, the enormous energy instantly shook off Yang Shuangji's palm. An expert. Yang Shuangji's heart shook. He hadn't expected a top expert to be hiding in this house. While he was thinking, a shadow was gathering in the air. Countless shadows poured out from Lotus Sun's bedroom, and finally formed the shape of Sun Ying'er. Who is it? Someone wants to attack my Rongrong. As soon as Sun Ying'er appeared, she turned her gaze to Yang Shuangji at the door. Humph. Anyone who dares to touch my Rongrong must die. In her rage, her snow-white hair fluttered in the air. Sun Ying'er pursed her lips, and in a flash, she split into 10-odd clones and charged toward Yang Shuangji. Chapter 1362. There's actually a clone with the same energy as the main body. This was the first time Yang Shuangji had encountered such a thing. Strictly speaking, he felt that this was not a clone at all. However, Yang Shuangji seemed to gradually understand the specific principle of using it as he dealt with the clones. These clones were all based on the main body, so as long as the main body was taken down, the clones would automatically disappear. At this moment, Yang Shuangji turned his gaze to Sun Ying'er in the void. He spread out his right hand. Pestle. A purplish-gold Buddhist pestle with a ferocious beast carved on its head passed through layers of space walls and came to his hand. This was the Azura pestle that Yang Shuangji was proud of. The ferocious beast on its head was the hell beast that suppressed the 18 levels of hell. Although it was a Buddhist item, it had an extremely strong murderous aura. Sun Ying'er's main body had yet to approach, but just by smelling the Azura pestle's aura, she felt that the void in front of her was filled with illusions. Everything was dyed blood red. Even the water vapor in the air seemed to have turned into a blood mist, making it difficult to breathe. Boz. Senior, why does she look like she's in pain? Zhao Qingxian asked curiously in the inner world. He did not know what had happened. From his perspective, it was still blue sky and white clouds. Everything was normal. This is the Azura blood illusion array of the Azura pestle. The more people kill, the harder it is to escape. Yang Shuangji sneered. She's trapped by my Azura pestle and can't escape for now. Everything in the illusion array is fake, and we're still in reality. Now, all we need to do is walk in and take down that girl. But who is this white-haired girl? She should be the one who refined her shadow into a magic treasure. Although I don't know how she did it, I'm slightly surprised. She's just a foundation establishment. Before Yang Shuangji could finish speaking, a shadow suddenly whipped out from the void and hit the right side of his face. Immediately afterward, Yang Shuangji's entire face began to distort. He quickly flew backward and crashed into a metal pier in the distance, causing the entire bridge to collapse. Although there was a huge commotion, Yang Shuangji himself did not seem to be too badly injured. After he got up from the pile of rubble, he was surprised to find that Sun Yinger had used her own strength to break free from the illusion. Humph! You didn't expect this, did you? Sun Yinger chuckled. The more people killed, the harder it was to escape. Sun Yinger smiled. Ever since she had turned into a shadow and became the master of the void, she had fought with many people from the war sect. But the problem was that she hadn't killed a single person. Not only did he not commit any murder, but he was also forced to accept Wang Ying's beatings every day. Thinking of this, Sun Yinger was about to cry out of grievance. In her grief and indignation, she broke free from the illusion of the Azura pestle almost immediately and gave Yang Shuangji a face-breaking punch. Although the split body hit the right side of the face, the power of this punch was enough. The damage from the backlash was reflected on the doppelganger in an instant, shattering it into pieces. However, Yang Shuangji's entire body flew very far away, but such an explosive punch did not cause any substantial damage to him. Sun Yinger was slightly surprised. The person in front of her was much stronger than she had imagined. Supreme Buddhism, she muttered. Just as the split body punched out, she saw a layer of Buddha's light protecting Yang Shuangji's body, although it was only for a moment. Sun Yinger was sure that she did not see wrong. In addition, there was the Azura pestle that was floating in the void. This was a powerful Buddhist world-defying magical artifact. And what made Sun Yinger even more shocked was that there was chaotic force flowing in it, at least 5% of it. Fortunately, her battle strength was not low, otherwise, she would have been done for. I don't know how the little girl inside refined the shadow into an artifact, but if you are willing to come with me, I can spare your master's life. I can spare your master's life. I will only rape him, not kill him. Yang Shuangji said. You are a supreme Buddhism, how can you say such shameless words? I have lived for a long time. You are not a fake monk, are you? Sun Yinger listened to Yang Shuangji's words, feeling incredulous and a little funny at the same time. Also, what makes you think that I am a refined artifact? She felt that the fake monk in front of her had an inexplicable kind of conceit, and it was the kind of conceit of a frog in a well. Although Sun Yinger had heard that the Golden Lamp monk was also extremely confident in his own strength, at least he would reflect on himself. They were both supreme Buddhists, but why was the gap so big? Sun Yinger felt that the man in front of her was revealing something strange. If he was a fake monk, the holy aura he exuded was real, just like the Golden Lamp monk. If he was a real monk. Sun Yinger could not accept that such a thought, which was even more perverted than Wang Ying, would appear in the head of such a supreme Buddhism saint. Since that's the case, I'll take both of you down today. A threesome, perhaps it will be more enjoyable. Yang Shuangji licked his lips. He manipulated the Azura pestle, jumped up from a distance, and attacked Sun Yinger. At this time, Sun Yinger was still in deep shock. She thought that Wang Ying was perverted enough. She did not expect that there would be an even more perverted one. Sure enough, there was no limit to the realm of perversion. With such a comparison, Sun Ying'er suddenly felt that Wang Ying was much more normal than Yang Shuangji. At the very least, Wang Ying had only used the planet wall tapping technique on her. Although it made her waist hurt, he did not do anything else that crossed the line. Compared to Yang Shuangji, Wang Ying was simply a gentleman. As long as I can restrain you, your split bodies will disappear. At this time, Yang Shuangji's laughter came from afar. His azure pestle burst out in full force at this moment, and the blood-colored Buddha light shone for thousands of miles, incomparably gorgeous, with a natural majesty in the awe-inspiring atmosphere. Those split bodies were all suppressed to the ground, like nails deeply embedded in the ground, unable to move. At the same time, the azure pestle fell on Sun Ying'er's body to suppress it. That dense oppressive force caused the careless girl to be trapped. It's all that damn Wang Ying's fault. Sun Ying'er was panicking. Her strength was restricted by Wang Ying, which allowed Yang Shuangji to have the upper hand at this time. Otherwise, how could a mere Yang Shuangji be her opponent? Yang Shuangji revealed a wretched expression. His tongue was very long, and when he pounced in front of Sun Ying'er, he almost licked Sun Ying'er's face. However, at this time, there was a buzzing sound. The huge black shadow that covered the sky and the earth suddenly did not come. The black shadow was like a tide, sweeping in from all directions, instantly sweeping Sun Ying'er away. Yang Shuangji stuck out his tongue. In the end, he only licked her loneliness. At the critical moment, Sun Ying'er was rescued. She felt a domineering force suddenly pulling her away, and she could not be more familiar with this force. It was that man who appeared. He was like a god appearing to save her, and then quickly swept Yang Shuangji into his inner world. Here. It was Wang Ying's inner world. Wang Ying. Sun Ying'er was almost sobbing. All kinds of emotions intertwined in her heart. She was a little touched, but she was more disgusted by the tongue that Yang Shuangji had just stuck out. You, who are you? Facing the man who suddenly appeared, Yang Shuangji was feeling depressed that he did not succeed. Touch my people. Wang Ying frowned. He stood with his hands behind his back, not even moving a finger. The countless shadows in the inner world turned into tens of millions of strips, and instantly attacked. You. Yang Shuangji's eyes were filled with horror. This power was too terrifying, and the Shura pestle that he was so proud of was snatched away by these strips of shadows, instantly swallowed up. That was the magic weapon that he was so proud of. Now that it was snatched away, Yang Shuangji instantly lost most of his sense of security. The countless strips rolled in from all directions, pulling Yang Shuangji's limbs, tightly wrapping him up. No! Yang Shuangji shouted, burning his own blood essence, wanting to resist. However, all of this was useless. Wang Ying's speed was too fast, his figure was as dense as a ghost, and instantly appeared in front of Yang Shuangji, stretching out his hand and strangling his neck. Yang Shuangji was in pain from being strangled, and the tongue in his mouth was forcefully squeezed out by Wang Ying. Wang Ying did not say anything. Only to hear, "Chi." Another sound. He controlled the strips of shadows around him, and pulled out Yang Shuangji's entire tongue. However, to Wang Ying, all of this was just the beginning. You still haven't moved, where? Wang Ying stared at Yang Shuangji coldly. He began to torture at his own pace. In the inner world, Yang Shuangji's screams were heard, at this moment. This was a unique song that belonged to Wang Ying, the Shadow Dao execution song. Chapter 1363. Wang Ying didn't know why he hated Yang Shuangji so much. Maybe it was because of Yang Shuangji's insufferably arrogant face. Maybe it was because of Yang Shuangji's arrogant, complacent, and insufferably arrogant attitude. Or even simpler, it was simply because Yang Shuangji had bullied Sun Yinger. Mixed up with these emotions, the rage in Wang Ying's heart was on the verge of bursting out. There was no suspense in the ensuing battle. The only difference between them was the king's eye, and Yang Shuangji naturally wasn't Wang Ying's match. He strangled Yang Shuangji's neck, cut off his tongue, and finally broke his fingers one by one. These filthy, evil hands made Wang Ying's blood run cold and disgusting. Shadow Dao Execution Tune was the most terrifying of all Shadow Dao spells that Wang Ying had, and was ranked number 1. Its power was second only to the Shadow Ball which he had used to deal with the groundhog. But once it was carried out, it would make people experience the inhumane feeling of abuse. The heart-wrenching damage that would be transmitted would not cause one to die, but it would be able to destroy one's spirit through the continuous abuse. In the end, it collapsed. Shadow Ball was an immobilizing destructive spell. Every second spent in the Shadow Ball would cause damage equivalent to one slap from Wang Ling. But Wang Ying felt that using Shadow Ball to deal with someone like Yang Shuangji was going too easy on him. As for the Shadow Dao Execution Tune, it was perfect for Yang Shuangji. Like long spears, striped shadows attacked from all directions and pierced through Yang Shuangji's body. One of them pierced Yang Shuangji's mouth directly, piercing his throat all the way through and coming out through the soles of his feet. However, Wang Ying's abuse didn't stop there. His eyes were bloodshot as he entered a berserk state. This was a Wang Ying that Sun Yinger had never seen before. For a moment, the girls suddenly felt fear. In a berserk state, Wang Ying directed thousands of striped shadows to poke holes in Yang Shuangji's body. He kept repeating his actions. He was like an emotionless, ice-cold machine. Sun Yinger finally couldn't take it anymore. She stepped forward and hugged him from behind. Enough. Wang Ying. He's already dead. This call finally brought Wang Ying back to his senses. The red light in his eyes receded. Peace returned to the inner world. All that was left was Yang Shuangji's corpse, which had been tortured beyond recognition. At this point, all the executions had been completed. Wang Ying stabbed her hand into Yang Shuangji's dantian. As soon as Yang Shuangji died, the inner world within him began to collapse. However, Wang Ying could sense that there was another person hidden in Yang Shuangji's inner world. Then, Zhao Qingxian was pulled out. Wang Ying grabbed Zhao Qingxian's neck, scaring him out of his wits. Senior, don't kill me. I was forced by him. The son of the Divine Realm's Zhao family's patriarch? Wang Ying read out this person's background. He also knew why Zhao Qingxian was hanging out with Yang Shuangji. Earlier, Zhao Qingxian had said, he only has Lu Qingyi in his heart. This sentence actually saved Zhao Qingxian's life. He sensed that Zhao Qingxian bore no malice towards Lotus Sunday. In the end, Wang Ying brought Zhao Qingxian out of the inner world and threw him on the ground. Thank you for not killing me, senior. Zhao Qingxian hurriedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Someone as strong as Yang Shuangji had been abused by Wang Ying to the point where he couldn't even put up a fight. This kind of strength instantly gave Zhao Qingxian a clearer understanding of his trip to Earth. Can you let go of me? At that moment, Wang Ying frowned and asked. Sun Yinger was still hugging him like a koala bear. Sorry. Sun Yinger hurriedly let go. But get this straight. I wasn't going to hug you just now. I know. I didn't hug you because I wanted you to calm down because you were in a killing frenzy. I know. It's all because your inner world is too cold. Wang Ying nodded. He allowed the young girl to make these seemingly weak arguments. By the way, how did you know I was in danger? Sun Yinger was curious. You're too stupid. You could be in danger at any time, Wang Ying replied. Who's stupid? I've been observing from the side for a long time. If it weren't for Miss Sun being in danger, I wouldn't have made a move. It's also not because the Lord predicted that you would be in danger, so he came, Wang Ying said expressionlessly. You're not honest at all. Humph. Sun Yinger said. You're the same. Wang Ying shrugged and stared at Sun Yinger. Tonight, you still owe me 200 punishments. Why? You failed to protect Miss Sun, and you still need me to make a move. You're the Void Master. Wang Ying smiled coldly. It's obviously you. When Sun Yinger heard Wang Ying's words, she wanted to go up and ruthlessly trample on Wang Ying's face, but she restrained her impulse in the end. She wanted to say that it was Wang Ying who restricted her ability. But when the words reached her mouth, she didn't dare to say it. She knew that once she said it, she would fall into Wang Ying's trap. He would definitely seize the opportunity to increase the number of punishments. It's just 200 times. Fine, I'll punish you. Sun Yinger stomped her feet in exasperation. Then, she turned her gaze to Yang Shuangji, who was not even human anymore. What's going on with this person? The Lord has already divined this person's background, so I have to ask you, Wang Ying said. Ask me. What does it have to do with me? Sun Yinger put her hands on her hips and put on an innocent expression. This person is not a Buddhist saint, Wang Ying said. How is that possible? Zhao Qingxian, who was still kneeling on the ground, looked shocked. But he clearly told me that he's Grandmaster Jin Deng's junior brother. Grandmaster Jin Deng's junior brother died a long time ago. How could a Buddhist disciple who was willing to die in order to save his senior brother possibly say these insulting words of Buddhism? Wang Ying said. After he said that, Sun Yinger carefully observed Yang Shuangji, and the expression on her face suddenly became extremely surprised. Did you notice? Wang Ying asked. Sun Yinger reached out, and a light seal appeared in her palm. It was the Void Master's seal. She reached out and covered Yang Shuangji's body. The blood-drenched body instantly turned into particles of light and disappeared. This is an imaginary creature. Yes, this person is an imaginary creature from the void world. He's also our old friend, Wang Ying said. Everyone knew that the minds of the void creatures were connected. They lived in the void and relied on all kinds of imagination to obtain spiritual satisfaction and pleasure. These imaginative things usually did not affect reality. However, there was still a very small probability that these imagination things would be reflected in real life, to put it bluntly. If the obsession was strong enough, they could use the power of the void to reimagine themselves. I know that the void creatures are now under strict control, so this kind of situation can't happen. But you need to know that your void world is not clean for a long time, Wang Ying said. Are you talking about the human cultivators who evolved into void creatures? Sun Yinger was surprised. This is the only reason why a void creature would have such a strong obsession. Wang Ying said, Golden Deng's junior brother is not called Yang Shuangji. This person disguised himself as a Buddhist saint and changed his name to Yang Shuangji, which is actually a hint to his true identity. You're saying he is Yang, the symbol of day. Shuangji is Xia. It has the same sound as Xia. This person is still alive. Sun Yinger was shocked. She had inherited all the energy and information of the old Void Master, so she naturally knew about this person. But this person was already dead. All the Baizhu in the parallel worlds had been completely destroyed. I didn't think that there would be someone with such a strong obsession in this world. Wang Ying couldn't help but laugh. Baizhu's obsession was unbelievable even to him. He was already dead. He even used the last remnant of his will to assume the identity of the deceased and forcefully filled in the gaps in his mind. P.S. For this chapter, see Chapter 1261, The Night of Demolition in 112660 High. Chapter 1364. The probability of imaginary creatures appearing in the void was very small, and generally speaking, there was no need to pay special attention to them, since they were just imagination, created by some very obsessive void creatures. Although this kind of imagination would be reflected in reality, it was like a dream, and would disappear as soon as one woke up. It was like a mirage that many people saw. But this was the first time even Sun Yinger had seen such an obsessive imagination. In the records of the old Void Masters, there had never been an imaginary creature created by a void spirit that could live in the real world for more than 30 seconds. And Baijia's duration was beyond imagination. This kind of obsession was frightening. He'll probably appear again in the future. Sun Yinger was very curious. Maybe, Wang Ying replied with a nod. I'm very curious what makes him so obsessed. Sun Yinger didn't understand. He's not the main character, but he imagines himself to be the main character. That's the saddest thing about Baizhi, Wang Ying said. So it's the obsession of being the main character. Sun Yinger thought it was a little funny. So, is that why he imagines himself to be the main character and doesn't recognize Wang Ling? He's been killed many times by Commander Ling. Since he appears in the form of imagination, he naturally imagines himself to be invincible. After all, he imagines himself to be the main character, and would never imagine a memory that's bad for him. So, in his mind, he's invincible. One last question. Why does he imagine himself to be someone who's already dead? Wang Ying replied, there's a basic rule for imagination, and the dead won't disturb the order. It would be interesting if he defied nature and imagined himself to be Commander Ling that day. So, maybe he'll use the identity of someone else who's already dead in the future. We have to be prepared. You have to protect Miss Sun at all times. He clearly didn't have much to do, but he forced himself to be the main character. Each time, Baizhi thought he was invincible, but he was killed time and time again. There was no doubt that he was a tragic character. I will. Sun Yinger nodded. But can you remove the restriction on me? No. Wang Ying refused Sun Yinger's request. Why? No reason, because I don't want to. When Wang Ying said that, he took the opportunity to grab Sun Yinger's hands, put them against a wall, and moved his face closer. They were so close that Sun Yinger could hear Wang Ying's breathing. Sun Yinger, pervert, Wang Ying sneered, tonight, 200 times, don't forget. With that, Wang Ying let go of Sun Yinger and disappeared with Zhao Qingxian in a black shadow. Hateful guy. Every time he uses so much force, Sun Yinger grumbled and rubbed her wrist that was hurting from being pinched. Just as he was about to return to Lotus Sun's side, he suddenly heard a loud boom behind him. Because Wang Ying had just been pushed against the wall. The wall behind her had actually collapsed. This was the outer wall of the villa, and it was at least 1,000 meters long. Now, a part of the wall had collapsed, forming a domino effect. The 1,000-meter wall began to collapse one after another. Sun Yinger was extremely shocked. After that, she understood something. That was, never let a man with a higher realm than you push you against the wall. Elsewhere, Wang Ying had dragged Zhao Qingxian to the Wang family's small villa. He could be spared the death penalty, but he couldn't be spared. Choosing to join Yang Shuangji's camp had already been a huge mistake. If it wasn't for his infatuation with Lu Qingyi, not even ashes would be left of Zhao Qingxian. Shinren, spare me. I didn't join on purpose. I've admired Qingyi for a long time, but after I came to Earth, I was inexplicably brought to a detention center. Zhao Qingxian's eyes welled up with tears as he said this. He didn't know why this had happened. Zhao Qingxian was well aware that he couldn't hide anything at all, so he simply confessed everything. Wang Ling had already read the cause and effect of everything in Zhao Qingxian's mind. Overall, Zhao Qingxian could be considered honest. Furthermore, Zhao Qingxian couldn't be blamed entirely for being sent to a detention center. Zhao Qingxian had been sent down by the head of the Zhao family to make friends with Wang Jin. Who would have thought that as soon as he came to Earth, Wang Jin would plot against him and beat him up? He could be considered an unlucky kid. Then, Wang Ling waved his hand and motioned for Wang Ying to take Zhao Qingxian to Wei Ji's apartment for Gu Xuanji to supervise. He told Wang Ying to bring Zhao Qingxian to his side. He just wanted to know why Baizhi had come to Zhao Qingxian after he had imagined himself to be Yang Shuangji. He felt that there might be some key clue on Zhao Qingxian that Baizhi could use, which was why Baizhi had set his eyes on him. But what exactly, Wang Ling couldn't say for sure at the moment. Because this Baizhi hadn't explained anything to Zhao Qingxian before Wang Ying had killed him. And now, Zhao Qingxian was also in a state of confusion. He had no idea what had happened at all. "I'll send you to a place where the keeper of order will supervise you. You have to behave," Wang Ying said as she stared at Zhao Qingxian at that moment. "Yes, after you go back, when the soul change spell wears off, switch back to your original body. Don't cause any more trouble. You have to report everything you do in advance." "Understood." Zhao Qingxian nodded. "Also, there's something else I have to tell you." Wang Ying rubbed his chin thoughtfully. He had actually pondered for a long time whether to tell Zhao Qingxian this bad news, but he felt that since the matter was already settled, it was better to let Zhao Qingxian accept it sooner rather than later. "Wang Ying, Miss Lu already has someone she likes. Although you're infatuated with her, I advise you not to harass her. Otherwise, you'll be dealt with very badly." "Someone she likes? Who's the one she likes? I want to fight him one-on-one." Zhao Qingxian was furious and looked like he wanted nothing more than to rush forward and bite someone to death. "Wang Jin." Wang Ying said, "Do you know him?" Hearing this, Zhao Qingxian was alarmed. "Aren't they at loggerheads? He's so sweet now," Wang Ying said. "You can't force things when it comes to relationships. They're very close now, so whatever you do is useless." After Wang Ying said this, Zhao Qingxian's nose turned sour and he burst into tears on the spot. He took out the last of his belongings from his storage ring and kowtowed to Wang Ling Jinren. "These 3 heavenly essence returning heart pills are my last life-saving measure. I beg you, help me. I can't live without Qingyi." Wang Ling, next to him, Wang Ying didn't say anything, and directly dragged the crying Zhao Qingxian away. Not crispy noodle snacks. He still had the nerve to complain. Chapter 1365. Yang Shuangji's matter came to an end, and Zhao Qingxian was also under Gu Xuanji's supervision. But Wang Ling knew that this was actually just the beginning. Baizhi's obsession was stronger than Wang Ling had imagined. Even if he had already killed all the Baizhi in the parallel spaces, he still retained a strong obsession, filling in the gaps in their own imaginations in various ways. Then, he appeared in this world, launching a meaningless challenge to himself. He was killed time and time again, but miraculously recovered time and time again. To Wang Ling, Baizhi's life was already legendary enough, Yang Shuangji. This was the first character that came to Baizhi's mind, and it was also the first sock puppet. Unfortunately, Baizhi died too quickly. There weren't any useful clues left. Judging from the current situation, the only useful information was Zhao Qingxian. He was the first person Baizhi had approached after his brain had recovered. Wang Ling currently didn't know what use Zhao Qingxian had for Baizhi. Therefore, he could only ask Gu Xuanji to help keep an eye on things. After seeing Zhao Qingxian off, Wang Ling started to flip through the book, comprehensive collection of essays for exams. After returning from the 9 Dragon Mountain National Competition, Crispy Noodles had written an essay for Wang Ling that had exploded in popularity. At that time, a speck of ashes of the times had almost become his biggest label. Thus, his language teacher, Guan Ziqian, had forced him to participate in the essay competition this time. Before Sunday, he had to submit an essay and upload it to the national competition database through the online platform. Teacher Guan was a good person, and Wang Ling had to give him face. But he really didn't know if they could get a ranking or not. Of all the items that could be graded, the essay was actually the most difficult to control. This was because every marking teacher had a different impression of the essay. The same essay might give a completely different score. If Wang Ling wrote the essay himself, he would use the lowest standard, and it would be fine as long as he didn't deviate from the mark. Then, he opened the submission platform for the essay competition. He carefully reviewed the theme of the essay: youth's feelings are always poems. Sitting in the morning to talk about lovesickness. Perhaps everyone has an unforgettable person in their youth. Please write your own topic and talk about whether you are currently in love. P.S. If you are a single dog, please use single dog as the title and talk about your views on single dogs. Wang Ling's lips twitched. This was an essay contest. Why are you scolding me? That night, on the moon, Wang Ying waited for Sun Yinger for a long time. The appointed time was 8:00 at night. Wang Ying had nothing to do and had been waiting here since 6:00. In any case, it was very boring for Wang Ying to stay in Wang Ling's mental space, so she might as well stay here and wait for a chance to tease Sun Yinger. It was almost 8:00, about 2 to 3 minutes until the hour. Sun Yinger's figure appeared. As usual, the girl was still dressed in dark clothing. She was wearing a deep burgundy lace dress decorated with sparkling black diamonds. The dark color of the dress set off Sun Yinger's snow-white skin, and the black waistband showed off her fine figure in one glance. These 2 days, Lotus Sun bought a lot of new clothes for Sun Yinger. However, Sun Yinger was a fan of dark-colored clothes. She wore them in black, purple, and gray. The only brighter color was the white lace on her skirt. Wang Ying was delighted and pulled the girl into her arms. Looks like you're ready to be punished. Sun Yinger fell into Wang Ying's arms and smiled sinisterly. Wang Ying. You've been tricked. The girl in her arms laughed as if her plan had succeeded, and then with a bang, her split body actually split again. This wasn't Sun Yinger's real body, but the nesting doll split trap. Sun Yinger knew that her real body couldn't use any of its abilities when it was next to Wang Ying, so she had already made preparations on Earth. At that moment, Sun Yinger was hiding in a corner of space, secretly delighted at her victory. She had actually been thinking about how to break Wang Ying's planet drumming spell. And now, she had finally developed a new unique skill. Nesting doll split trap plus shadow coffin carrying spell. First, she would use the split body as bait to confuse the target. Then, when the target was very close, she would quickly split into 6 other split bodies. A total of 7 split bodies would instantly imprison the target. Starting from the head, limbs, waist, and shoulders, the 7 split bodies would firmly fix these parts in place from bottom to top, and then lift them onto the target's shoulders. Then, the most crucial step appeared. Once the target was placed on the shoulders of the 7 split bodies, the lifted target would be quickly cursed and then explode. It would be directly turned into ashes, and there wouldn't even be a need to buy a coffin. Therefore, Sun Yinger also named her newly developed unique skill Shadow Coffin Carrying Spell. In just a few seconds, there was a huge explosion on the surface of the moon. It was accompanied by a loud boom. The 7 split bodies and Wang Ying perished together, leaving behind a huge crater that was thousands of feet wide. Wang Ying's aura had completely disappeared. Sun Yinger hid in the dark and observed. She had thought that after Wang Ying disappeared, she might feel happy. Because she had finally broken free from the shackles of a pervert. However, it turned out that Sun Yinger wasn't as happy as she had imagined. On the contrary, there was a sense of emptiness in Sun Yinger's heart. This idiot, she's usually so smart. How did she really die from the explosion? Sun Yinger's expression was very complicated. She looked at the huge crater on the surface of the moon and felt Wang Ying's aura disappear, and a sense of loss arose in her heart. Idiot Wang Ying. Pervert Wang Ying. She stomped her feet and cursed in the dark, and there were already tears in her eyes. At this moment, Wang Ying's voice suddenly sounded from behind her. Miss me. In the deep and boundless darkness of the universe, a hand condensed from a black shadow and quickly materialized, pinching the girl's soft earlobe. You're not dead. Sun Yinger instantly held back her tears. I told you long ago, you're a stupid woman. You want to kill me with this kind of method. Wang Ying revealed his entire figure. He appeared from behind, grabbed the girl's hand, and pressed it against a meteorite. The girl's hand was grabbed, and Wang Ying pressed on her joints, causing her to gasp in pain. Don't push forward, it's very painful. Hearing this, Wang Ying loosened his grip a little, and slightly raised the corner of his lips. Now you know pain. Just you wait, one day I'll blow you up, stubborn. Wang Ying smiled bitterly and shook his head. Just now, did you call me an idiot? I think you called me twice. The sixth rule is that every time you scold me in the future, you'll be hit 200 more times. So, today's punishment is a total of 600 times. But you only made this rule today. Sun Yinger was unconvinced. I don't care. Wang Ying whispered in Sun Yinger's ear, I want to see you angry and exasperated, but unable to kill me. Sun Yinger, that night, under the inspiration of Sun Yinger, Wang Ying also upgraded his planet drumming technique. He changed it to multiple planet drumming technique. There were a total of 7 Wang Ying, and each of them pressed on a part of the girl's body. Once again, he smashed the planets in the Milky Way that had just been repaired into pieces. P.S. Watch this chapter and combine it with the video Black Man Coffin Bearers for better effect. You can search for it on Bilibili. Chapter 1366. Friday, December 4th. The monk paid another visit to Sister Sun's villa. With Sun Yinger's split nomological form and the Heavenly Tao magic cube, the conditions needed to turn Mysterious C's sword spirit space into a super sword spirit container had been met. Monk Golden Lamp only needed to handle the operation to upgrade Mysterious C now, and there basically wouldn't be any problems. I'm here today to ask Miss Sun to come with me to the demon world, the monk said. The demon world. After upgrading into a super sword spirit container, it needs to recognize its master as soon as possible. If it's on Earth, it'll cause too much of a stir. It'll attract attention. If it's in the demon world, it's actually just right, the monk said. He had actually thought for a long time about where to set up the altar, and in the end still chose the demon world. On one hand, second-generation demon saint and the demon world's holy envoy Shen Weiyue were on his side, and could provide some help. On the other hand, upgrading the super sword spirit container would trigger another chaos heavenly tribulation. Earth had already completed its upgrade, so the demon world naturally couldn't fall behind. This was for the sake of checks and balances. The monk also felt that helping the demon world complete its upgrade this time would also help improve their relationship with the demon world. The main thing was that their ties with Battle's sect would become even deeper. Lotus Sun actually knew very little about the demon world, and the only thing she knew was that Loopy Toad was from there. Thus, her expression turned astonished once again. This heavenly Tao was created by classmate Wang Ling. Could it be the same in the demon world? The monk was already used to the girl's strange ancestral imagination. It wasn't created by Ling Jinren. But I reckon that second-generation demon saint would be very happy to abdicate his position. Classmate Wang Ling will be demon saint in the demon world. Lotus Sun asked. Ling Jinren doesn't have the time to worry about so many things. The monk smiled. Benefactor Toad is a ready-made demon saint seedling. Loopy Toad. Lotus Sun nodded thoughtfully. Speaking of which, it had been a while since she had seen Loopy Toad. When Earth was upgraded a while ago, Benefactor Toad accidentally swallowed the soul of a divine beast, and is currently cultivating in seclusion in the demon world. With Ling Jinren's secret help, the speed at which it swallows the soul has greatly increased, and it'll be completed soon. The monk said, "Miss Sun, you can go with me this time. You can understand the demonic world and also visit Benefactor Toad." "Alright, I'll listen to Senior." Lotus Sun nodded. The monk was very strong. She believed that her safety would not be a problem. In addition, Ying was always by her side. If they encountered a situation where they couldn't win, Wang Ying would also come. In terms of personality, Wang Ying and Wang Ling were very different. But as a shadow, Wang Ying had inherited one of Wang Ling's traits, peeping. Perhaps he had said something wrong. But Lotus Sun felt that there shouldn't be too many problems with her analysis. "Senior Golden Lamp, how long will we be gone?" Lotus Sun asked before leaving. "It won't be long. I'll be back on the same day," the monk replied. Creating a super sword spirit container was not a difficult task for him. Moreover, he had already informed the demon world in advance about upgrading the altar, and had second-generation demon saint and Shenhuiyue make the necessary preparations. "Miss Sun, please follow me." The monk performed a Buddhist salute, then took out a purple gold alms bowl from his world in the sleeve and placed it on the ground. Then, he took a step forward and stepped on the mouth of the alms bowl. His entire body was instantly sucked in. This was the map teleportation magic artifact that the monk often used. Lotus Sun was a little nervous. She had never seen what the demon world was like, but curiosity drove her to take this step. The purple gold alms bowl's teleportation light was very gentle. There wasn't much discomfort. When she landed, Lotus Sun felt like a leaf floating on the surface of water as she was very gently teleported to the demon world. This was a rather retro tribal world. The girl stood on a high vantage point. Looking ahead, there wasn't a single particularly modern building in this vast area, and every place was filled with a simple and unadorned aura. The architectural style of the demon world was completely different from that of the human world. It was like visiting an ancient relic. "Miss Sun, we're now at the center of the demon world, on top of the holy pillar. In other words, it's the place where the demon saint is," the monk said casually. He swept a glance at the magnificent, retro palace behind him. "That's where Demon Saint lives." At that moment, Sun Yinger chuckled. "Rong, did you know? Not everyone has the right to come to the holy pillar in the demon world. Even the 8 demon gods don't have the right to set foot on top of the holy pillar without permission." Sun Yinger wasn't exaggerating. On top of the holy pillar. This was a domain that symbolized the supreme power of the demon race and the supreme dignity of demon saint. Even demon gods didn't have the right to come here, but Lotus Sun did. Sun Yinger found it funny. "Ha ha. It's Rong's first time in the demon world, and she's already on top of the holy pillar. I don't know if I should say that Rong is worthy of being the strongest foundation establishment cultivator on earth. And she's even my daughter." Before she could say the word woman, she blushed and berated Sun Yinger. "What are you saying, Yinger? Don't spout nonsense." Sun Yinger stuck out her tongue and then obediently shut up. They waited outside the temple for about a minute before second-generation demon saint and divine envoy Shenhuiyue hurried out of the palace to welcome them. "Senior Golden Lamp and Miss Sun, I've kept you waiting." Shenhuiyue was the first to greet them, and then he bowed in apology. He looked at Lotus Sunday. "I've long heard of Miss Sun's great name. Seeing you today, you're indeed extraordinary." Senior is too kind. The girl was a little embarrassed by the formality. We're all on the same side here, so you don't have to be nervous. Coming here is just like coming home. Shen Weiyue smiled. Miss Sun, are you interested in drinking deer blood soup? It can nourish your skin and prolong your life. It's a great tonic. Lotus Sun was puzzled. Deer blood soup. That's it. Saying this, Shen Weiyue plucked off his antlers. Rip. There was a loud sound. Blood instantly gushed out of the wound like a fountain. Thank you. No need. Lotus Sun was frightened. Then, Lord Demon Saint and Miss Sun, please come into the temple for a chat, second-generation Demon Saint said at that moment. Demon Saint. Lotus Sun was surprised. Realizing that he had let the cat out of the bag, second-generation Demon Saint looked a little embarrassed. At that moment, the monk smiled. To tell you the truth, Miss Sun, in fact, this poor monk was once Demon Saint in one reincarnation. But that was a long time ago. At that time, there was no ranking for Demon Saint, so this poor monk was once primordial Demon Saint. Senior's experience is really rich. Lotus Sun was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She instantly understood what Shen Weiyue meant. No wonder he said that coming here was just like coming home. She had thought that Shen Weiyue had read too much, Gone in a Bottle. She hadn't expected Golden Lamp to have such an experience. Chapter 1367. The monk's rich life experience was breathtaking. He had been an emperor, a beggar, a demon saint, and had even played all kinds of female roles. Lotus Sun was utterly shocked. She felt that the monk might have already experienced all the professions in the world. After nearly 4,000 lives of reincarnation, what could he do? It could only be said that Senior Golden Lamp was indeed Senior Golden Lamp, as expected of a representative figure who had lived for a long time. Second-generation Demon Saint and Shen Weiyue led the way, and Lotus Sun followed closely behind them. She walked on the soft red carpet of Demon Saint's palace. Halfway there, she suddenly had a question in her heart. Senior Golden Lamp, I have a question, Miss Sun, there's no harm in asking. The monk smiled politely. Since Senior Golden Lamp has experienced so many professions, haven't you ever stopped being a monk? Lotus Sun asked. The journey of reincarnation is a very mystical path. No matter how I reincarnate, this poor monk's ultimate fate is to become a monk. This is unavoidable. It was during these countless experiences of new professions and finally becoming a monk that this poor monk realized life and the truth of Buddhism. The monk smiled, and there was a profound meaning in his words. Perhaps Miss Sun will feel powerless when I say this. But if Miss Sun has the opportunity to experience reincarnation, perhaps you will be able to comprehend it. Lotus Sun sank into thought at this. After carefully mulling it over, the girl raised her head again, and there was an unprecedented seriousness in her eyes. Senior, can you explain it more clearly? The monk narrowed his eyes slightly. His brain was translating all the scripture theories in his head as he tried his best to explain them in plain language that ordinary people could understand. It actually wasn't a long process. A few seconds later, Lotus Sun heard Golden Lamp continue, perhaps in this world, apart from Ling Jinren who can't see his own fate, everyone's fate is predetermined. To be able to change one's fate is to defy the heavens. You see, this poor monk can reincarnate 1,000 times, but still can't escape the fate of being a monk. Like that marmot, no matter how hard it struggles, it can't escape its fate of being a marmot. Like that Baizhe, no matter how many times he comes back to life, no matter what new form he takes, he will still be destroyed by Ling Jinren's palm. And that Kuxuan, no matter how many times he changes, he can't escape his fate of being short. People can enter the cycle of reincarnation, but they can't escape their final fate. A person's dedication to love can also transcend the cycle of reincarnation. Even though it takes a long time, but as long as you endure it, there will come a day when it ends. At this point, the monk glanced at Lotus Sunday. He felt that what he was hinting at was very obvious. However, the girl's expression didn't change much. Sun Yinger, on the other hand, suddenly cried out in alarm. She sounded almost like she was about to cry, and second-generation demon saint and Shenhuiyue, who were leading the way, turned their heads in alarm. Sun Yinger said, "Monk, are you lying to me?" The monk was puzzled. "I'm a poor monk, why would I lie?" Sun Yinger cried even harder. "Boo-hoo! You said that I can't escape the fate of reincarnation. Does that mean that in my next life, I will still be hit by that perverted Wang Ying? I'm so miserable." Everyone, with the girl's intelligence, she could naturally sense the deeper meaning behind the monk's words. When she saw Sun Yinger complaining, she actually felt a little envious. Wang Ying's initiative was far beyond Wang Ling's. She remembered that her Shifu Lu Qingyi had complained to her previously that people with the surname Wang were all blockheads. But not long after she said that, Wang Zhen had laid his cards on the table. And now, according to Wang Ying and Sun Yinger's situation, their shadows were about to merge again, but there was no sign of them at all. Classmate Wang Ling was just like a fighter among blockheads. "Lord Primitive Demon Saint, the upgrade altar is just up ahead." Before she knew it, she had already been led to the inner palace of Demon Saint's palace. The upgrade altar was set up here. 12 simple stone pillars formed a circle with an umbrella-shaped spire. From a distance, it looked a little like a pavilion, but it was full of a mysterious, simple, and ritualistic feeling. On the side of the altar, second-generation Demon Saint and Shenhuiyue had set up an upgrade guide for the demon world. They planned to take advantage of the Sword Spirit's upgrade, and also benefit the demon world in passing. This upgrade array, which is supported by 12 ancient Sword King pillars, was set up according to Lord Primitive Demon Saint's will. Below the ground is the upgrade array disc, and I've already carefully checked all the array patterns to make sure nothing goes wrong. As for the top. At that moment, Shenhuiyue looked at the top of the altar. The girl next to him followed Shenhuiyue's gaze. She saw a crescent-shaped blade that gave off a faint blue light hanging at the very top of the spire. The blade was engraved with ancient characters, which were very grand and profound. This spirit beheading blade can only be supported by 12 ancient Sword King pillars at the same time. Shenhuiyue explained, to become a powerful sword spirit, you have to break down and then rebuild. As long as Miss Sun's mysterious sea goes through this slash, it will become a super sword spirit, which will greatly expand its sword spirit space. Finally, through the law of division, it will have the ability of an infinite sword spirit. As he explained, he marveled at the monk's generosity and Lotus Sun's good fortune. This girl's status was too high. She was actually able to make the monk take out his trump card and use it. During the upgrade process, the 12 ancient Sword King pillars would erupt with powerful energy, drawing in the chaotic energy of the universe, which would cause the spirit beheading blade to fall. Because the chaotic energy was too strong, the moment it fell, the ancient Sword King pillars would collapse. And after the spirit beheading blade completed its final mission, it would also directly fall apart. Everything on this upgrade altar was a one-time thing. It would definitely be destroyed after the upgrade. But the monk had used his experience of nearly 4,000 reincarnations to collect each of the items that made up the altar. These 12 ancient Sword King pillars and the spirit beheading blade alone were priceless treasures that cultivators in the present world couldn't measure with money. They came from the same place as Jinka, a place called Sword King World. Shenhuiyue had only heard of it from rumors. That place was a hell from which there was no return. Anything that got close would be crushed in an instant. The altar is set up pretty well. After inspecting the structure of the altar, the monk nodded with satisfaction. Now, there's only one last step left. Then, he took out the Heavenly Tao magic cube from the universe in the sleeve. Once this thing appeared, it would resound throughout the world. His parents had raised second-generation demon saint for nothing. Both he and Shenwuyue were terrified. Who would have thought that the monk would actually have such a godly object? Lord Primitive Demon Saint, could this be? That's right, the Heavenly Tao magic cube. The monk nodded. Your Excellency can even get your hands on this thing. It's not mine, I don't have the ability. The monk smiled. Ling Jinren gave it to me to complete this upgrade. So it's a love token. Shenwuyue was enlightened. On the side, Demon Saint echoed, holy shit. The Heavenly Tao magic cube is a love token. As expected of Ling Jinren. This thing is worth trillions of times more than a diamond ring. It's such a blessing to be Ling Jinren's girlfriend. If it were me, I would marry him. Steam rose from Lotus Sun's ears again. Chapter 1368. The Heavenly Tao Magic Cube was a space-stabilizing auxiliary magic tool that Tao ancestor Wang had developed. Its value was self-evident. It was rumored that Tao ancestor Wang had created a total of 9 magic cubes. However, in Tyrant's 4,000 reincarnation experiences, he had only encountered the Heaven's Tesseract after clearing out the unspeakable lands. At this point, the Golden Lamp monk actually had a deduction in his heart. That was, the remaining 8 magic cubes were most likely used by Tao ancestor Wang in other places to stabilize space. A Tao ancestor was so powerful that he definitely had more than one inner world. Even many of the Tao gods in the God realm were dual-core Tao gods. The 2 from the Wang clan and Gu clan had even cultivated to the level of 3 to 4 cores. If he was a Tao father, he would be able to give birth to an inner world that would definitely rise to a whole new level. Before Wang Ling had been born, Tao ancestor Wang was probably the only one who had been able to use the Heavenly Tao magic cube to place the core world outside. Now, the unspeakable land had been destroyed. In other words, Tao ancestor Wang had set up another 8 core worlds like the unspeakable land. If the main body was included, perhaps there would be dozens of them. The inner world represented the maximum amount of spiritual energy a cultivator could contain. The more cores there were, the stronger the spiritual energy would be. And Wang Ling's inner world, the monk guessed that it might be greater than Tao ancestor Wang. However, even if it was greater than the number, the monk didn't think that the difference would be too great. He was estimating Tao ancestor Wang's former level. Although monsters like Wang Ling had been born in the long river of history, Tao ancestor Wang himself had also continuously grown up in the cycle of reincarnation. Although Golden Lamp monk didn't know where Tao ancestor Wang was. However, according to the overall estimation of the Tao ancestor's growth, Tao ancestor Wang probably had more than 100 core worlds in his body. Let's start. Everything was ready to upgrade Mysterious Sea, and the monk began to direct second-generation Demon Saint and Shenwuyue to activate the upgrade altar. In an instant, the entire altar began to shake violently. A pillar of light shot into the sky, piercing through the clouds, causing the entire sky of the demon realm to instantly turn dark purple, emitting a powerful pressure. Has Demon Saint started? It's really going to upgrade the demon realm. At this moment, the demon realm was in an uproar. All the demons were looking at the sky eagerly. In the sky above the demon realm's sacred pillar, a strange light suddenly appeared, followed by a terrifying chaotic force, like a long spear, suddenly piercing the altar. A huge amount of energy poured down from the vault of heaven. Clouds steamed and rosy, falling from the highest point of the vault of heaven like a waterfall. This kind of scene was something the demon race had never seen before, and they were all amazed. For a moment, with the sacred pillar as the center, the entire monster world shook. The energy of chaotic force hit the altar, and at the same time, it began to be diverted by the guiding device that Tyrant had set up in advance. Violent waves spread from the top of the sacred pillar, and then expanded to the 108 domains of the demon realm. Like a mountain torrent, a deafening roar erupted. At the same time, countless illusions descended from the void. Everyone was shocked. This was an illusion produced by the impact of the chaotic energy. It was frightening and extremely destructive. Compared to the path of leveling up on Earth, leveling up in the demon realm seemed to be more bumpy than leveling up on Earth. Rong, run. Seeing this, Sun Yinger pulled Lotus Sun away and quickly retreated. What's this? Lotus Sun asked. Sun Yinger, it's a chaos illusion. There's a certain probability that it will happen when the power of chaotic force is used to level up the world. She reacted quickly and dragged Lotus Sun away almost immediately to avoid being hit directly by the core attack. Although Lotus Sun's body had already been blessed, Sun Yinger still felt that it was safer to do so. She had to make sure that Lotus Sun was absolutely safe. Otherwise, that big freak Wang Ying would use her as a pretext again. Monk Golden Lamp stood in the center of the storm of chaotic force. He raised his hand and put second-generation demon Saint and Shenhuiyue into his inner world. The moment he did this, his whole body was enveloped in the illusion of chaotic force. Under the impact of the powerful chaotic force, from an outsider's point of view, the monk's body began to distort, as if he had been sucked into some vortex. But very quickly, this distorted force was forcibly corrected by the monk's powerful Buddhist light. A huge swastika character burst out of the monk's pupils. In a short time, Buddhist light interweaved, and in that moment, the supreme power of Buddhism surged out of the monk's body. Senior Golden Lamp is amazing. Even under Sun Yinger's protection, Lotus Sun could still feel the immense pressure of the chaotic force. Standing alone in the center, Monk Golden Lamp fought everything with brute force. He was simply incomparably valiant. Boom! The huge swastika character expanded continuously as it battered the chaotic force and crushed down on the strange beasts that had been created by the chaotic force. Lotus Sun was dazzled by everything. Divine Pond, Monk Golden Lamp was extraordinary and very handsome indeed. But she also weakly voiced her opinion. If it's classmate Wang Ling, she couldn't go on with her words, because she felt that they might be a little inappropriate. In the end, Sun Yinger poured out everything she hadn't said. That's for sure. Ling Zhenren might be able to break this chaotic force with just a breath. To put it bluntly, the monk is handsome, but he's indeed a little showy. Sun Yinger actually didn't say this loudly, but when the monk, who was resisting the attack, heard it, he lost his balance and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. After several dozen seconds, the chaotic force was torn apart by the monk. At the same time, the chaotic force also ended. The strange phenomenon in the sky disappeared. After absorbing enough chaotic energy, the 12 ancient Sword King pillars instantly burst forth with light. After releasing the power of chaos that had accumulated in the pillars, they swiftly turned into powder and disintegrated on the spot. At the same time, the energy of the 12 pillars poured into the top, and in the end, Spirit Beheading Blade fell. A brilliant blue light burst forth from the Dharma. Chi! Spirit Beheading Blade was extremely sharp, and when it cut through Mysterious C's body, it was split in two. The monk seized the opportunity to stuff the Heavenly Tao magic cube into the crack. Then, he used the strength of his palm to reassemble Mysterious C, which had been split apart by Spirit Beheading Blade. This action took a lot of effort on the monk's part. He had clearly consumed a lot of spirit power in the process of merging Mysterious C, and it seemed to be even more difficult than resisting the chaotic force. The main reason was that this was the monk's first time using the Heavenly Tao magic cube, and he wasn't very familiar with it. Another reason was that he was being cautious. This was the only piece of the Heavenly Tao magic cube he had. If the fusion failed, it would really be a waste of God's gift. Even the monk himself couldn't forgive himself. Fortunately, the whole process went smoothly. Merge! A few minutes later, with the monk's explosive shout, Mysterious Sea, which had been split apart, was successfully merged back together. She was surprised to find that Mysterious Sea's appearance had also changed. Compared with the original Mysterious Sea, the current Mysterious Sea looked about 10 years older, and had become more mature and charismatic. She was wearing a gorgeous dark blue evening dress, and her blue eyes were like sapphires shining in the deep sea. Her silver-gray hair hung down, and there was a beautiful curl at the end like a wave. After fusing with the power of the Heavenly Tao Magic Cube, it's really extraordinary. After being released from the monk's inner world, second-generation Demon Saint couldn't help exclaiming in admiration, "The sword spirit space of Miss Sun's Mysterious Sea sword is now as vast as the inner world. Moreover, it has fused with Miss Ing's nomological division. Too strong." Shen Wuyue also sighed. A foundation establishment cultivator actually had an inner world. This was simply outrageous. But why doesn't Miss Sun look so happy? Second-generation Demon Saint asked. Because Mysterious Sea has grown up, Sun Yinger said bluntly. Staring at Mysterious Sea's grown chest, she shrugged and sighed. It would be great if Rongrong was this big. Everyone, Sun Yinger, if Rongrong is big, I'll be big too. I actually don't care about that. Being small is good, and being big is also good. If it's a little bigger, I'll be able to use it as a shock absorber when Wang Yingqiu hits me. Everyone, Sun Yinger, when that time comes, it'll be like having 2 air shoes on your chest. How nice would that be? What nonsense are you talking about? Lotus Sun was both embarrassed and annoyed by his words. She wished she could sew Sun Yinger's mouth shut. Chapter 1369. December 4th, Friday. It was definitely a memorable day. In this world, there was one more foundation establishment cultivator whose combat power could rival the peak of Tao Master. If the label of being the daughter of a rich family was removed, she was just an ordinary girl. She was such an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator. In today's era where building foundation stage cultivators were as numerous as the hairs on an ox, such a realm was simply impossible to establish a foothold in the cultivation world. Until the girl pulled out her own level 99999999999 spiritual sword. Grasping the hilt of Mysterious Sea's sword, Lotus Sun sensed the powerful sword chi emanating from the upgraded Mysterious Sea. The current Mysterious Sea was indeed astonishingly strong. In a situation where he had not even unsheathed his sword, even if his sword chi had reached its peak state before leveling up, it would only be a drop in the ocean compared to his sword chi now. Senior, can I try the sword? Lotus Sun asked. Shen Wuyue was greatly alarmed. Miss Sun, please don't try it here. If you swing your sword down, the sacred pillar might collapse. Lotus Sun covered her mouth in surprise. Is it really that powerful? Of course. Shen Wuyue wiped his sweat. With Mysterious High's current sword, anyone below the Tao Master level would be killed. The power of nature was unparalleled. After Miss Sun's Mysterious Sea went through this upgrade, it's already incomparable. On the Universe Sword Spirits leaderboard, he can definitely be ranked in the top 10. Monk said. I remember classmate Wang Ling has a peachwood sword. You mean Lord Jinka? Lord Jinka would definitely come first. No one could surpass him. Furthermore, Lord Jinka has an upgraded form, and when he transforms into Lord Jingbai, no one can match him. Tyrant said, and the second sword is Anticipate. I know this, it's Senior Aujua's spirit sword. But he seems a little dispirited right now, Lotus Sun said. This penniless monk has also heard of this matter. The monk nodded and said, but as far as this poor monk knows, prediction, seems to be without a scabbard. If we want to help him pull himself together, I think we can play matchmaker with Miss Mysterious Sea. I don't think so. Before Lotus Sun could answer, Sun Yinger shook her head. The monk laughed, missing, what do you think is inappropriate? Sun Yinger said, my Rongrong is still single, but the sword spirit is first. The monk smiled and remained silent. It was said that a spirit sword was like its master. If Mysterious Sea succeeded, perhaps Master would be able to speed up as well. So he thought. Actually, not necessarily. However, the matchmaking between you and Mysterious Sea was ultimately just the monk's own joke. That was all he had to say, and he did not continue on this topic. In fact, even the monk didn't expect this. Mysterious Sea seemed to have taken it seriously. On the other side, in the Demon Realm's Mountain of Return, Loopy Toad was cultivating in seclusion here. This was a secret realm that Wang Ling had specially opened up for Loopy Toad in the demon world. Of course, Loopy Toad wouldn't be the only one benefiting from this secret land. After that, all the core members of the war sect who needed to go into seclusion to undergo tribulation could come here. In this secret realm, the flow of time would be accelerated. It greatly reduced the time spent on cultivation. It had swallowed the soul essence of a young divine beast, and according to the normal time, it would take at least a few hundred years to digest. But now, 3 days was enough. Furthermore, before it was completely digested, the signs of a breakthrough had already appeared. This was a good thing for Loopy Toad. Its only goal was to advance to a divine beast. As long as this goal was achieved, it would be enough. As for the rest of the divine beast's soul, it could leave it to Little Silver. Strictly speaking, Little Silver was its junior brother, and as its eldest senior brother, it was only right for it to take care of him. At that moment, tribulation thunder rumbled in the sky above the Mountain of Return. The power of chaos surged up above, which made Loopy Toad feel a little dangerous. It didn't know if it was because the demon world had completed its upgrade at the same time, but it felt that the lightning tribulation sea above its head was particularly violent. The standard for a divine beast to undergo a tribulation was to endure at least 2% of the power of chaos. But now, in Loopy Toad's view, the power of chaos in the lightning tribulation sea in the sky was already seriously over the limit. What the hell is going on? Loopy Toad was stupefied. If this lightning tribulation struck, it felt that it wouldn't be able to survive on its own. Something was very wrong. Because in the next breath, Loopy Toad sensed that the power of chaos was so thick that even breathing was difficult. It was now more than 30%. Loopy Toad felt that it couldn't take it anymore. What happened to the agreed 2%? Had it been tricked? At the same time, Battle Sect Seclusion Cellar Monitoring and Command Center swiftly made an emergency report in response to the sudden increase in the power of chaos on the Mountain of Return. The Mountain of Return. The power of chaos is abnormally thick. Brother Loopy Toad is in danger. In the command center, Cowan nervously made the report. After the disbandment of the SBP Foundation, he had officially joined Battle Sect, and was also the first foreigner to do so. Why was this happening? After receiving the news, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal frowned and asked in Battle Sect's core group, something doesn't seem right. Does anyone know what's going on? Joy, Senior Golden Lamp said before that the concentration of the power of chaos in the lightning tribulation to advance to a divine beast was only 2%. Even if there was an anomaly, it wouldn't be more than 5%. This concentration is very abnormal. If it strikes down, I'm afraid that even this secret realm Shifu set up in passing will be destroyed. Golden Lamp, don't panic, everyone. I'm in the demon world. I was originally here to accompany Miss Lotus Sun to upgrade the Mysterious Sea. I didn't expect this to happen. I'm going to take a look. The monk didn't dare be sure of the specific situation until he saw it with his own eyes. But he already had some guesses in his heart. Lotus Sun, Senior Golden Lamp, what on earth is going on? Is Loopy Toad in danger? Golden Lamp said, "Don't worry, Miss Sun, with this poor monk here, there won't be any problems. Later, you and Miss Ing should stay outside the secret realm and never go in." In fact, when Golden Lamp said this, he himself felt a little weak. The concentration of the power of chaos in the lightning tribulation had already exceeded 30%, and it was still rising. Given his realm, 50% was already his limit. If it continued to rise, Golden Lamp felt that he might even be struck to ashes. When they arrived at the secret realm of the Mountain of Return without a hitch, the monk felt that the situation was more serious than he had imagined. Cracks had already appeared at the entrance to the secret realm. "We have to stop it as soon as possible." The monk frowned. Otherwise, if the secret realm was broken and the concentrated power of chaos inside gushed out, even the upgraded demon world would instantly fall apart. Thinking this, Monk Golden Lamp disregarded his own safety and stepped into the entrance of the secret realm. As soon as he entered, the monk immediately felt his knees sink sharply. The pressure brought about by this highly concentrated chaotic energy almost made him kneel down. He came back to his senses and looked at Loopy Toad. He saw that Loopy Toad's entire body had already been embedded in the ground and was almost squashed into a piece of dog meat. "Lord Primitive Demon Saint, what's the situation?" Second Generation Demon Saint was also very concerned about the situation inside. In the end, as soon as he walked in, his back foot straightaway fell to his knees with a plop. Shen Weiyue followed Second Generation Demon Saint, and as soon as he entered, he also fell to his knees next to Second Generation Demon Saint with a plop. It was hard to imagine that a demon saint and a holy envoy would actually kneel so neatly. The corners of the monk's mouth twitched. What were they doing? Were they acting like big brother and sister-in-law Happy New Year? But it wasn't New Year yet. Chapter 1370. The phenomenon of the primal chaos energy density soaring in Origin Mountain was indeed a major event. The demon planet where the demon realm was located was hidden, but it was not too far away from Earth. If the primal chaos energy could no longer be suppressed and rushed out of the secret realm, it would cause the fiend star to explode. With the support of the chaotic force, the explosive power of the demon star would permeate the entire Milky Way galaxy. At that moment, Wang Ling was also reflecting. If it weren't for the fact that he had casually set up a cultivation secret realm, even if the density of the chaotic force had reached 100%, it wouldn't have been able to blow up his secret realm. However, it was already too late for regrets. The key was, he had to find out the reason for the sudden increase in the concentration of chaotic force and turn the situation around. Actually, Wang Ling had a rough idea about the abnormal surge. That was, the heavenly Dao magic cube created by Dao ancestor Wang was not only used as a stabilizer outside the inner world, at the same time, it should be able to balance the density of the universe space. Now, the unspeakable land had been destroyed, and one of the heavenly Dao magic cubes had fused with the mysterious sea. In a situation where there were no checks and balances, the abnormal phenomenon of the chaotic force would appear again in the future. First of all, apart from returning the heavenly Dao magic cube, there was actually another option in front of him. That was to create a new Heaven's Path Tesseract and replace it. However, if one of them was replaced, then the remaining 8 Heaven's Path magic cubes would have to be replaced as well. There was no other way. The Heaven's Path magic cube he created was simply too powerful. Perhaps its performance far surpassed that of the original version created by Dao ancestor Wang. If only one was created to replace the current loophole, there would still be no way for it to truly serve as a check and balance. Create Rubik's Cube. On the side of the pillow, Jinka shuddered slightly before transforming into his human form. He was also pondering Wang Ling's question. For Wang Ling, creating a new Rubik's Cube wasn't difficult, he just needed materials and a certain amount of time. However, the current situation was far more complicated than everyone had imagined. With Tao ancestor Wang's meticulous way of doing things, it was impossible for him to imagine that once the heavenly Tao magic cube was unable to form a restriction, it would create an abnormal imbalance in the strength of primal chaos in the universe. This was a terrifying matter. Thus, Wang Ling suspected that the remaining 8 heavenly Tao magic cubes might activate their revenge mechanism at any time. He snatched back the one that had fused with Mysterious Sea. However, it was still unknown what form the revenge would take. I'll have to trouble Bai Qiao to go. At his desk, Wang Ling cupped his chin as he carefully considered countermeasures. Right now, the most important thing was to solve the abnormality in the chaotic energy concentration in the secret land and help Loopy Toad successfully transcend its tribulation and level up. Can't I go? Jinka asked. Mysterious Sea doesn't have a sheath spirit, Wang Ling replied. Although it was short and to the point, Jinka understood. This was because Mysterious Sea didn't have a sheath spirit. Even if he went there himself, he would not be able to complete the fusion. But if Bai Qiao went, the situation would be completely different. This decision. In fact, he was also helping Lotus Sun test her sword. In Battle Sect's internal internet cafe, Bai Qiao put down her headphones. It was inevitable that this veteran otaku Bai Qiao felt a little uncomfortable being interrupted in the middle of a game. She scratched her head. So annoying. Can't you let me play the game properly? However, it was impossible for her not to give Wang Ling face. Thus, Bai Qiao was swiftly pushed to the front line by the light of Lord Ma's teleportation. She had just approached the entrance to the secret land called Mountain of Origins. The powerful chaotic energy inside had already seeped out, and Bai Qiao's ahog fluttered wildly under the pressure, like seaweed in a powerful storm as it swayed in the wind. May I ask who you are? Lotus Sun asked the girl who had suddenly appeared in front of her. She saw that Bai Qiao was wearing a fire-breathing dragon one-piece pajamas and a pair of bright red headphones around her neck, which made her look very cute. I'm Lord Ling's woman, Bai Qiao replied. Under her control, the ahog on top of her head seemed to be turning around consciously. Seeing Lotus Sun's expression darken, she knew that her joke had gone too far, and she hurriedly corrected herself. Fine, I'm his sheath. Lord Ling asked me to help. The next second, Lotus Sun's expression immediately returned to normal. So you're Miss Bai Qiao. This change was so fast that Bai Qiao was caught off guard. You also have white hair. Is this author a white-haired freak? Sun Yinger actually knew who Bai Qiao was, but this was her first time meeting Bai Qiao, so she couldn't help feeling a little surprised when she saw Bai Qiao in person. Healer Knight Lulicon, Ku Xian Bai Freak, both Wenzhou authors, a perfect match. Bai Qiao shrugged indifferently and was as venomous as ever. Let's put idle chatter aside, it's more important to solve the problem in front of us first. Miss Sun, please come with me. But Senior Golden Lamp said it's dangerous inside. Don't worry, I'm here. I won't be able to hurt Miss Sun, Bai Qiao said confidently. She added another layer of protective golden light to Lotus Sun's body, and then stepped into the secret realm. Then. Thud. She knelt down next to Shen Weiyue. Shen Weiyue, second-generation demon saint, Loopy Toad, Monk Golden Lamp, _ Miss Bai Qiao, it's not the new year yet, there's no need to be so formal, I didn't expect the primal chaos concentration to be so high. Bai Qiao looked a little embarrassed, while Lotus Sun, who was behind her, was completely fine. Her physical body, which had been blessed, plus the golden light shield that Bai Qiao had personally set up, as well as Mysterious Sea's sword chi protection, allowed Lotus Sun to move freely even in such a strong primal chaos concentration. Apart from a slight lack of oxygen, she didn't feel any other discomfort. Bai Qiao patted the dust off her pajamas and got up from the ground. What's the situation now? Golden Lamp frowned. It's not optimistic. I've already struck the sky with my palm to disintegrate this primal chaos. But given the strength of my palm, I can't eradicate it all at once. I can only do my best to control the concentration. Bai Qiao nodded. After understanding the situation, she turned to Lotus Sunday. Miss Sun, why don't you try the sword first? Strike the sky and get a feel for it. Ha! Can I? Isn't it more important to control the situation first? Lotus Sun was stunned. Bai Qiao said expressionlessly, the secret land that Lord Ling set up must have a concentration of more than 65% before it collapses. It's only 40% now, and there's still time to spare. Lotus Sun never thought that Bai Qiao's purpose in letting her come in was actually for her to try the sword. And the reason why Bai Qiao had come here was because student Wang Ling had instructed her to. So, was student Wang Ling creating an opportunity for her to try the sword? At this thought, the girl's mood instantly improved. Thank you, student Wang Ling. Thank you, Miss Bai Qiao. Thank you, seniors. Then, I won't stand on ceremony. Soon after, Lotus Sun swiftly pulled Mysterious Sea out of its sheath, and a powerful sword qi, like a raging sea, burst out of the blade. Ha! Lotus Sun pointed her sword at the sky and slashed down. Rumble. Sword light seeped out of Mysterious Sea's sharp edge. At first, it was only a few inches long, but then it kept growing as it charged toward the sky. Surging sword intent reverberated like a heavenly Tao bell, accompanied by the sound of a tsunami. The terrifying pressure of the sword rushed toward the primal chaos that had been accumulating in the sky, causing the entire secret land to shine with blinding light. A Foundation establishment cultivator can actually slash out sword qi 10,000 meters long. At that moment, second-generation demon Saint and Shen Weiyue, who were kneeling on the ground, were stupefied. Chapter 1371. The thunder tribulation of transcendence and the heavenly tribulation of divine punishment all revolved around the power of thunder and lightning. Thunder was one of the most terrifying forces in the world. The lethality of the lightning tribulation and the heavenly tribulation would increase by thousands of times. Primal chaos was a terrifying energy that originated from the birth of the universe. Every time a world-defying artifact was infused with 1% chaotic energy, its power would increase by another 5%. Thunder and chaos. Once the two of them combined, they would form the chaos lightning. The terror of its might was naturally indescribable. However, it seemed that the most terrifying thing was not the chaotic lightning in the sky above the secret realm. Instead, it was a scene of a young girl who was only at the Foundation establishment stage fighting against the chaotic lightning. When the girl unsheathed her sword, her unswerving gaze moved people. Even though her cultivation was only at the Foundation establishment stage, her face still revealed a strong sense of confidence. When he drew his sword and slashed forward, the seemingly thin and weak figure seemed to have erupted with all his strength at this moment. A single sword strike was enough to topple a city, and it was eye-catching. Mysterious Sea stood out with a sword energy that was over 10,000 meters long. The sword intent of the raging sea held forward, displaying the depth of the sea and the terrifying power to swallow all things. For a moment, the chaotic lightning and Mysterious Sea's sword intent collided. The two forces collided, causing energy to explode in the sky and sparks to fly in all directions. The successive explosions of light illuminated the sky of the secret realm as if it was plated with a layer of aurora. The light was dazzling and resplendent. Buzz! In the void, Mysterious Sea revealed himself. She had already absorbed the power of tens of thousands of Mysterious Sea's doppelgangers in the sword spirit space. This caused Mysterious Sea's body to grow explosively. She appeared in the secret realm like a giant, towering between heaven and earth, shaking the heavens. Her beautiful and moving skirt was also enlarged infinitely. When it swayed, it emitted a boundless aura of the sea. Flood the Golden Mountain. Mysterious Sea shouted softly, his voice shaking the surroundings. As soon as she spoke, a large number of scriptures immediately appeared in the void and covered the sword chi that was charging towards the sky. Together, they exerted pressure on the highly concentrated chaotic lightning. Second-generation Demon Saint and Shinwuyue's mouths hadn't closed from beginning to end. Moreover, because the chaotic energy was too dense, they were still in a kneeling position. They were really kneeling to watch. The two forces collided, wearing each other down and restricting each other. After a few minutes, the light in the sky dimmed down. Mysterious Sea's attack could be considered a success. It managed to neutralize about 15% of the chaotic energy. A large area of primal chaos was dispersed, causing the density of the secret realm to drop temporarily. However, this also used up all of Mysterious Sea's accumulated power. It was impossible to use such a powerful, city-toppling sword a second time in a short period of time. Calculating based on the same amount of power, it would take 12 hours of accumulation before the second strike could be executed. But as long as Lotus Sun didn't use up her savings, they could stack up. Mysterious Sea's sword spirit space was a super container that could be stacked up to 10 times at most. It's indeed powerful enough. Tyrant sighed. Mysterious Sea's attack did not completely eradicate the chaotic force, which was expected. Lotus Sun was indeed very strong, but she was still weaker than the monk. Even Tyrant's palm strike was unable to eradicate it, let alone Mysterious Sea's sword strike. The sword trial is over, so it's our turn now, Bai Qiao said at that moment. Understood. The monk nodded. Later, the moment Miss Bai Qiao and Mysterious Sea fuse, this poor monk will add golden Buddha light to your bodies. Combining all of our powers, we'll definitely be able to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Miss Bai Qiao, are you going to fuse with Mysterious Sea? Lotus Sun was surprised. Special circumstances, that's the only way. Bai Qiao's ahog spun. Then, her figure shifted and she turned back into a scabbard. Miss Sun, no need to be polite, be bold and use me. Lotus Sun, how do I do it? Bai Qiao, insert Mysterious Sea directly into my scabbard, and the fusion will be complete. Then, Miss Sun just needs to perform another slash like just now. Okay. Lotus Sun nodded. Following Bai Qiao's instructions, she inserted Mysterious Sea into the scabbard of her peachwood sword. Bai Qiao and Mysterious Sea combined. In a split second, a powerful force overflowed from Mysterious Sea in Lotus Sun's hand. Lotus Sun noticed that the shape of Mysterious Sea in her hand had also changed. The body of the sword, which had been alternating between blue and white, was now bright orange like a tangerine. At the same time, the newly fused sword spirit officially appeared in front of everyone. It was a blue-haired, orange-eyed woman who looked extremely elegant. Her hair had been coiled up, and Bai Qiao's ahog had turned into a hairpin which was inserted into her coiled hair. She was dressed in a gorgeous snow-white Daoist robe, and the long tail at the end dragged behind her like a wave, like the Milky Way hanging down. It was extremely beautiful. The woman opened her beautiful phoenix eyes, and her whole body shone like a gem at the bottom of the sea. She had the temperament of an empress, like a heavenly paragon from ancient times, and made people want to submit to her. My name is Bai Hai, the woman said. Her sweet voice was like the sound of a conch shell, but there was an astonishing aggressiveness hidden in it, and there was actually a sense of ancientness when she spoke. Then, she turned her head to look at the sky, which was filled with the power of primal chaos. Bai Hai hadn't made a move yet, but the monk could already sense the terrifying battle strength she was exuding. As expected of Miss Bai Qiao, he sighed in his heart. This fusion directly increased Mysterious Sea's battle prowess by another level from his original foundation. This was an astonishing improvement. But just to be on the safe side, the monk still didn't hesitate to open the swastika and apply a layer of golden Buddhist light on Bai Hai. In a split second, Bai Hai's body was covered in a layer of golden light, as if he was wearing a suit of golden armor, and the aura he gave off became even more powerful. Furthermore, because of this layer of golden Buddhist light, Lotus Sun's alluring sword, which would have taken her 12 hours to charge up, was instantly recharged with the monk's energy. "Miss Sun, the time has come," the monk commanded at that moment. "Yes, Senior." In response to the monk's words, she withstood the almost boiling power of primal chaos in the sky and slashed at the sky again. She brandished her own alluring sword. At that moment, Snow White's sword Chi, like a wave, attacked the sky for the second time. The rich power of primal chaos collided with the white wave of sword Chi, causing the sword waves to boil, and dense steam accompanied by energy surged and tumbled endlessly. This sword Chi was 1,000,000 meters long. Like a watermelon knife, it instantly split the sky in two. Overwhelming power filled the entire sky and swiftly swallowed up all the power of primal chaos in the sky at a suffocating speed. A few seconds later, the rich power of primal chaos in the secret realm disappeared, and the primal chaos lightning that had fused with the lightning tribulation also dissipated. Warm sunlight shone down from the azure sky, sprinkling down on everyone's faces. The dissipating pressure was accompanied by an endless cool breeze that brushed against everyone's cheeks. The scene that had been so tense that they had almost collapsed, at that moment, Orange was in a great position. "Thank you for your hard work." Bai Hai turned around and smiled at Lotus Sunday. Then, her figure turned into particles of light and dissipated in the warm sunlight. Chapter 1372. Overall, it was a perfect fusion. But because it was their first time, Bai Hai's form was limited, and after Qingqing's sword slashed down, his body couldn't help but dissipate. Bai Qiao split back up, her forehead beaded with sweat as she panted. Fusing with Mysterious Sea was too tiring. Because she was practically the main part of Mysterious Sea's battle strength, Mysterious Sea's original foundation of battle strength had been greatly improved. In contrast, Bai Qiao found that fusing with Jinka was still a little easier. At the very least, Jinka's battle strength was online. After the sword was inserted, the two became one. Bai Qiao basically didn't need to move herself. That was the difference. "Senior Bai Qiao, are you alright?" Lotus Sun hurriedly stepped forward to support Bai Qiao. She could feel Bai Qiao swaying and almost falling down. "Don't worry about me." Bai Qiao's voice was faint. As a veteran otaku who focused on games, she didn't like other people touching her body in human form. "Ah. Sorry." Lotus Sun hurriedly let go. "Don't think that just because my lord helped you, you can do whatever you want," Bai Qiao blushed. For some reason, Lotus Sun's greeting just now had made her face burn a little. "I'm going back to play games." Her voice sounded a little hurried, and she turned into a brown spirit light as she left the place, almost as if she was fleeing. "Does Senior Bai Qiao hate me?" Lotus Sun looked a little puzzled. "I don't think so. It's all because Rong Rong is too charming." Sun Yinger giggled. Just like that, the sudden change came to an end, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Just a little bit more, and the Earth was going to be destroyed again. Fortunately, thanks to everyone's cooperation, this crisis didn't happen in the end. Loopy Toad shook its dog fur and jumped out of the pit. It had almost thought it was going to die just now. In the end, it hadn't expected it to pull through once again. A dog lives without purpose. Loopy Toad crawled out of the pit and couldn't help sighing with emotion as it looked at the blue sky in the secret land. There seemed to be something wrong with the idiom, "a dog lives without purpose." But it didn't matter. Loopy Toad felt that it was tailor-made for it. Loopy Toad. The dog fur on your body seems to have turned greener. Lotus Sun ran over to pinch Loopy Toad's face, and found that its head was still as soft and bouncy as usual. Rong Rong, you're too gentle. Sun Yinger chuckled and immediately started. Watch me rub the dog's head. The touch was so tempting that even Monk Jin Dang couldn't help rubbing his hands together. I'm coming too. Rub the dog's head in anger. Loopy Toad let everyone ravage it without the slightest bit of resistance. This time, it would survive. Indeed, apart from Shen Wuiyue and second-generation Demon Saint, he owed everyone here a favor. Thank you, classmate Lotus Sunday. Thank you, everyone, for your help. Loopy Toad wagged its tail and thanked everyone from the bottom of its heart. You should thank classmate Wang Ling, Lotus Sun smiled. I've already decided. I'll follow little Master Ling for the rest of my life and be his dog for the rest of my life, Loopy Toad said with a resolute look in its eyes. With a smile on her face, Lotus Sun rubbed her face as she asked, but why do I feel like you haven't changed after becoming a divine beast? It's just that its fur is greener than before. That's just a facade. Benefactor Toad's battle prowess has indeed improved by leaps and bounds. It's no longer the same as before. As the monk spoke, he turned his gaze to second-generation Demon Saint and Shen Wuiyue. Benefactor Toad can now hang them up and beat them up. Loopy Toad is so strong. Lotus Sun exclaimed. Shen Wuiyue, second-generation Demon Saint, Monk Jin Dang, by the way, why are the two of you still kneeling? Shen Wuiyue and second-generation Demon Saint wanted to cry but had no tears. They had been kneeling for too long. Their legs were numb. Wang Ling heaved a long sigh of relief at his desk in his bedroom now that the matter of peeking at the mountain of backflow had been resolved. The disappearance of the chaos anomaly and Loopy Toad smoothly transcending its tribulation to become a divine beast was a good thing, but Wang Ling knew that things were far from over. He had a feeling that the remaining 8 Rubik's Cubes would definitely find a way to retrieve the one that had fused into Mysterious C's body in order to keep it in check. Thus, this matter needed to be considered at length. Wang Ling had wanted to call Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal to discuss this matter. But that wasn't the end of the trouble he was facing. Chinese teacher Guan Ziqian was calling. Even through the phone, Wang Ling knew that it definitely wasn't a good thing. Most likely, they were here for the essay writing competition. He had finished writing his submission yesterday and handed it in. It was just that he hadn't expected that before the submission was published, each school's Chinese teacher would first conduct a content review to ensure that it didn't contain any sensitive content. Then, Teacher Guan had set his eyes on his composition, Single Dog. Wang Ling's idea for this composition was very simple. But he felt that it was completely in line with the standards and the theme of the composition. Looking at Teacher Guan's flashing cell phone number, Wang Ling thought carefully and felt that there was nothing wrong with what he had written. After a few seconds of stupefaction, Wang Ling picked up the phone. On the other end of the line, Guan Ziqian seemed a little angry. Wang Ling, you're just brushing me off again. What on earth is going on with this composition of yours? The teachers in the office and I and the Chinese team were all stunned. Wang Ling was silent and didn't say anything. Youth's feelings are always poetry. Such a good topic. Have you never thought of thanking you for what happened between you and classmate Lotus Sun? Thinking about what happened to you at the Shao family compound fireworks party, I think you could have written a beautiful story. Teacher Guan did his best to provide Wang Ling with ideas. Fine, even if you don't write about what happened between you and classmate Lotus Sunday. Since you've decided to use Single Dog as the theme, you should start with the loneliness of youth. Hearing this, Wang Ling sighed in his heart. The loneliness of youth. In this world, it seemed that there was no one more lonely than him. Perhaps realizing that his tone had been a little fierce, Teacher Guan sighed in exasperation at Wang Ling's failure to meet his expectations. Wang Ling, maybe my tone was a little harsh. I apologize to you. But I also hope that you can understand my good intentions. There's no way someone who can write a composition like A Speck of Ashes in the Times could come up with a draft like this. Wang Ling wanted to cry but had no tears. The main thing was that he really hadn't written that thing. I know, classmate Wang Ling has always been a low-key person. Maybe you don't want to get a place at all. But you're a seated contestant that the teachers in our school's Chinese team have strongly recommended. Even if you don't want to write properly, you should at least fill up the paper, right? Teacher Guan tried his best to persuade him. Teacher Guan, the rule for compositions is indeed 800 words or less. Your composition actually isn't too off-topic. Actually, there are a lot of things you could have written about the theme of single dog. Teacher Guan, then your entire composition only has the F** word woof. Including the title, it's a total of 4 words. Classmate Wang Ling. Aren't you being too perfunctory? Chapter 1373. For Wang Ling, writing an essay wasn't difficult, but keeping his marks down was. Of all the test questions Wang Ling had encountered so far, it was the most difficult to keep his marks down. Because of his understanding of words, it was impossible to know what kind of marks a reading teacher would give you. Wang Ling remembered one year's college entrance exam, and the ending of an essay was, "Now, it's long dead, but there's still a strange light in its eyes." The teacher who had set the question wanted the students to understand the meaning of this sentence. In the end, even the original author of the essay didn't know what it meant. In the end, at Teacher Guan's request, Wang Ling had no choice but to rewrite his essay. "Wang Ling, can you submit it on Saturday?" Teacher Guan asked. All submissions would be closed at midnight on Sundays. If Wang Ling couldn't submit his essay then, number 60 high would have wasted a quota for nothing. "I'll try my best." Wang Ling sighed and answered helplessly. "Okay, then I'll delete your essay from the review platform." Teacher Guan nodded happily. Wang Ling was about to hang up when he heard Guan Ziqian suddenly cry out, on the other end of the line. "Wang Ling, ? Guan Ziqian, oh no. I think I clicked submit." Wang Ling, holding his head, Teacher Guan felt a little frantic. F***K. This essay review platform is simply toxic. Why did I click the X button on the side for submission? At the thought of a 4-word essay that would appear in the eyes of the nation's language teaching experts, so this is what it feels like to look up at the starry sky and see nothing but darkness. Teacher Guan instantly despaired. Furthermore, Guan Ziqian thought that Wang Ling's essay was very likely to be number 60 high's lowest score in the essay competition over the years. It would also be the first essay to score 0. He definitely wouldn't get the title of Outstanding Teacher of the Year. Guan Ziqian couldn't help his tears rolling down his cheeks. After the call ended, Wang Ling felt that he had indeed let Teacher Guan down. The main thing was that he really hadn't expected that there would only be 1 quota for the essay competition this time. In every previous competition, each school would have at least 3 quotas. Teacher Guan had pushed hard in the language group, convinced all the teachers, and had a war of words with the scholars. In the end, number 60 high's language teachers had put all their bets on him. If he didn't win this time, Wang Ling felt that he might even cause Teacher Guan to lose his position as head of the language group's teaching and research group. It was a little difficult to deal with. Should he rewrite it, and then ask Wang Ming to hack into the backend and replace it? At that moment, this thought had already emerged in Wang Ling's mind. Now, this seemed to be the only way. He was about to call Wang Ming when grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly sent him a text message. "Brother Ling. The matter in the demon realm has been settled. Congratulations to Brother Dog for successfully crossing the tribulation and becoming a divine beast. However, I think we need to hold a meeting to discuss the abnormality of the primal chaos concentration. What do you think? Wang Ling replied with one word. It was a phenomenon related to the abnormal concentration of chaos. Wang Ling felt that his calculations probably wouldn't be wrong. It definitely had something to do with the loss of the heavenly magic cube. Even if Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal hadn't come looking for him, Wang Ling had wanted him to start collecting the materials needed to make the new Heavenly Dao magic cube. When the time came, he would use the meeting to explain what he needed. Currently, the Battles sect had a vast network of connections, especially with regards to connections in other planets. This was a condition that no sect on Earth possessed. As long as Battles sect stepped forward, the domain of the gods and divine Dao Star would have to give face and help. If anyone wasn't convinced, they could try challenging Battles sect. But the result would be 100% failure. Oh, that's right, Brother Ling, there's actually one more thing. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal typed. I just saw that there are submissions for a national composition competition. One of them is about a single dog. I think the handwriting is a little like yours. Wang Ling, compositions uploaded to the composition platform were all scanned by hand and imported into the system as images. For language teachers, neat handwriting and literary flair were in fact equally important for an excellent composition. As the saying went, a person's handwriting was like a person's, and beautiful handwriting was definitely a plus. But Wang Ling was still taken aback that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal could recognize Wang Ling's handwriting from just 4 words. This was because for the sake of fairness, compositions submitted to the platform were all anonymous. Before the final results came out, none of the main evaluators in charge of grading would know who on earth the author of the composition was. If Brother Ling doesn't deny it, then it looks like you really wrote the composition. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said, I wasn't too sure before, so I sent it to Miss Lotus Sunday. Miss Sun had been deliberately imitating your handwriting all along. In the end, she could tell at a glance that it was you. Wang Ling, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. Actually, I'm one of the main evaluators for the composition in this competition. Wang Ling was blank. A total of 6 main judges have been selected for this competition, as well as a panel of 100 experts for a joint evaluation. But the main evaluators are responsible for grading the compositions. The panel of experts is just there to brag about the compositions. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal said, apart from me, the remaining 5 main judges are Brother Zhua, Mr. Sun Yuan, President Qi of the Magic Treasure Academy of Science, Secretary Sun of the Alliance of 10,000 Schools, and Wang Jiao. Wang Jiao. The corners of Wang Ling's mouth twitched. How many Wang Jiaos in this world? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Brother Ling, don't doubt your ears. The last judge is your father. For some reason, Wang Ling suddenly felt like he had been chosen. On the other side, Wang Ling's composition titled Single Dog was also swiftly included in the background information for the main evaluators. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had practically already made connections. Of all the main evaluators, the person with the most excited reaction was naturally none other than Old Man Sunday. His face was bright red as he stared at this forward composition and slapped the table in praise. Good. Classmate Wang Ling's composition, it's very well written. Old man, calm down. Jiang Shaoqi couldn't take it anymore, there was a sour taste in his mouth. Look. Classmate Wang Ling's character is so well written. It's a very standard thin golden figure. Without more than 10 years of work, how could he have reached this level? But old master. Classmate Wang is only 16 years old, so what if he's 16? You don't allow him to write at the age of 1. Look, although classmate Wang Ling's composition only has the character Wang throughout, I think he's trying to express the meaning of the Great Tao in its simplest form. And didn't you notice that classmate Wang Ling's composition actually has a voice? Chapter 1374. Although he was excited, after Old Man Sun calmed down, he could still sense Wang Ling's intentions from his essay on The Great Way is the Simplest. This was a national-level competition. Although this essay was creative, it was too risky. Furthermore, given student Wang Ling's personality, it wasn't in his nature to participate in the national essay competition. Most likely, it was the language teacher at school who had pushed him to do so. So was it possible that student Wang Ling had never wanted to win the prize from the start? Old Man Sun frowned. Xiao Che, do you think student Wang Ling never wanted to win the championship? Jiang Xiaoche carefully pondered the meaning of Old Man Sun's words. The old man's fan filter was too strong now, and Jiang Xiaoche knew that he had to adjust his attitude toward Wang Ling as soon as possible. Even if he wasn't satisfied with Wang Ling, he still had to go along with Old Man Sun's wishes in front of him. Otherwise, it would be too late by the time Old Man Sun felt that he was annoying. I'm afraid so, sir. Jiang Xiaoche nodded regretfully, and then started to observe Old Man Sun's reaction. Sure enough, Sun Yiyuan had a regretful expression on his face at first, and then he let out a long sigh. But this essay is really well written. Jiang Xiaoche, to be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that Sun Yiyuan still had a trace of rationality left in him, he would have directly given Wang Ling a perfect score of 60. But in order to take care of Wang Ling's feelings at the same time, in the end, Old Man Sun didn't give specific marks for the essay. Instead, he directly submitted it to the New Concept Creativity Pool. The prize system for this national competition was actually very rich. Some essays that broke through the examination-oriented style could be awarded for the New Concept Essay Award without being graded according to the examination-oriented style. This wasn't a championship award, so it didn't attract as much attention, but it was still a national award. Old Man Sun felt that this award was already enough for Wang Ling to answer to his language teacher. Sun Yiyuan's idea was the same as everyone else's, plus grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Odd Zhuo were pulling strings behind the scenes. There was almost no doubt that Wang Ling's single dog essay would win the New Concept Essay Award. Sun Yiyuan took a photo of Wang Ling's composition with his phone. Although it was only 4 words, the more he looked at them, the more he liked them. Do you know the name of student Wang Ling's language teacher? Sun Yiyuan asked. His name is Guan Ziqin, Jiang Xiaoche answered quickly. Very good. Sun Yiyuan nodded. Go back and inform Headmaster Chen to give Teacher Guan an award. Order of Commendation. To be able to teach such an outstanding student Wang Ling, Teacher Guan must also be an outstanding person. Old Man Sun stared at the photo on his phone and fell into a deep trance. Jiang Xiaoche, wonderful, wonderful. This word was beautifully written. Little Che, go print this out. I want to frame it for my collection. Old Man Sun said, in the future, when Huaguo Water Curtain Group recruits new employees, as long as they can write good-looking golden calligraphy, I'll add 10 points to the overall evaluation. At this moment, Jiang Xiaoche's expression was very complicated. He didn't know what on earth Wang Ling had done to Old Man Sunday. It was actually able to make the usually calm old man's fan filter thicken to this extent. When Wang Ling had gone to the aquarium previously, Jiang Xiaoche had been secretly plotting to trip him up, but he hadn't been able to find a good opportunity. But now, Jiang Xiaoche felt that he couldn't take it anymore. He had to expose Wang Ling's true nature. He had to let Old Man Sun see sooner who was the most suitable person for Lotus Sun. The entire plan was divided into 2 parts. Jiang Xiaoche would start with Wang Ling and Lotus Sunday. He would expose Wang Ling's true nature and increase Lotus Sun's favorable impression of him. Huaguo Water Curtain Group's backend AI system Wukong had created a very good condition for Jiang Xiaoche to carry out his plan. This AI system was originally used to calculate big data for customers. It was similar to the guess what you like function that some shopping platforms developed by getting a customer's focus on browsing products. The Wukong system could automatically push out all kinds of elixirs produced by Huaguo Water Curtain Group to potential customers based on their browsing needs. But now, Jiang Xiaoche planned to use the Wukong system for something else. Dead fish eyes, indifferent, oil bottle, iron fool, likes to steal other people's women. Jiang Xiaoche typed everything he could think of about Wang Ling into the Wukong system. Very quickly, the system's electronic voice sounded. Dear Mr. Jiang, Wukong has recommended you a local girl from Shanghai City. Please check her out. According to the system's speculations, this girl was 87% compatible with Wang Ling, and was the type that Wang Ling might like. Success. Jiang Xiaoche was secretly delighted. He clicked open the girl's profile. The girl in the photo had a head of fresh short hair, skin as white as jade, and was very cute and moving. She looked very young, but in fact, she was a senior professional escort expert. They specialize in serving drinks to the bosses of the shopping malls and the hotel. Interesting. I didn't expect classmate Wang Ling to like this kind of flirtatious type. Jiang Xiaoche nodded in satisfaction. Then, he quickly followed the information provided by the system. He made a call to the girl. Jiang Xiaoche, hello, is this Miss Suyu? I would like to ask you for a favor. It's nothing serious, I just want you to help me flirt with a boy. What? Sell your skills and not your body. No. I don't need you to sell your body. Do you understand the boyfriend loyalty test? Yes. It's just a test. The pay is very high. I hope you'll consider it. That night, Wang Ling suddenly received a very strange friend request. It was a girl whom he didn't know at all. The description of the friend request read, Classmate Wang Ling. I'm in trouble, please add me, I have something urgent to tell you. Wang Ling stared blankly at the girl's profile picture for a few seconds. He searched his memories and confirmed that there was no such person in number 60 high or among the people he had come into contact with. But the other party had actually called him classmate Wang Ling. Could she be from another school? No, maybe it was a leak. Jiang Xiaoche had calculated very well, but he hadn't taken into account that Wang Ling actually didn't have the habit of adding strangers. He didn't even bother to add this girl to ask what on earth was going on. Then, he blacklisted this strange girl. If you're in trouble, go look for the police, uncle. Why did he, and delay his online lessons? Chapter 1375. So you hadn't expected to be blacklisted just like that. This classmate Wang was indeed a cautious person, and more difficult to deal with than Siyu had imagined. Sister. Are you unhappy about something? Su Xiao, who was taking online classes at the dining table, couldn't help asking when he saw his sister's sad face. Go back to your class. Siyu scolded him softly. Wang Ling, Siyu was actually no stranger to this name. She had even met Wang Ling before, although he himself might not have known it. After the Shuego sect incident at number 60 high school, the school had required parents to pick up their children in person, and Siyu had met Wang Ling when she had picked up Su Xiao. Her younger brother had said that although classmate Wang Ling looked cold, he was actually a very good person. He was also the mascot of their class, and had represented the school several times to win glory for number 60 high school. Jiang Xiaoche had asked her to test a boy, whom he had described as heinous. Siyu hadn't even known who the boy was before receiving the information. In the end, who knew that this was actually her younger brother Su Zhao's classmate, Wang Ling? At this thought, Siyu felt her head hurt a little. Siyu had never thought of flirting with her younger brother's classmate. She didn't mean to make things difficult for Wang Ling. It was just that Jiang Xiaoche was paying her very well. If she could complete this task, Siyu could stay in the house for the next few years and work as an escort, which she hated. Everything she did was for the sake of a living. For the sake of a better life for herself and her younger brother. On Jiang Xiaoche's end, he received a reply from Suyu about an hour later. I used 36 numbers to add them, but they were all blacklisted. I don't have any more numbers now. Jiang Xiaoche was shocked. He stared at Suyu's message with an incredulous look on his face. Not a single one. Is he that upright? Why don't I believe it? After all, Wang Ling was only 16. Jiang Xiaoche was also an experienced person, and it was common for teenagers at this age to be hot-blooded. It was also the age when it was easiest for them to face all kinds of temptations. I have screenshots here. I've used both the soft and hard ways to ask for a friend. Now I really don't have a choice, Siyu typed. Jiang Xiaoche said, don't worry, I'll pay you. That's good. Suyu nodded. She did not know who the mysterious boss was. They had actually paid such a high price to give Wang Ling this so-called test. However, Siyu had an intuition that this person might have something to do with Lotus Sunday. Maybe he was also Lotus Sun's pursuer. Or, thinking of this, Siyu couldn't help but ask, excuse me, are you Miss Lotus Sun? Jiang Xiaoche said, I'm not. Staring at the phone, Siyu chuckled. Generally speaking, people who were eager to deny it were most likely to be true. She had long heard about the campus rumors between Lotus Sun and Wang Ling. It was just that he hadn't expected Lotus Sun to care so much about Wang Ling. He had even specially used a voice changer to disguise himself as a boy. She had no idea how he had found her and asked her to test Wang Ling's work. Suyu felt that she must have guessed right. Her burning desire for gossip forced her to type out her true thoughts. Don't be shy, Lotus Sun. Jiang Xiaoche, Siyu said, I actually understand the test of character. Given your family's circumstances, you should be a little cautious. In my experience, Student Wang is a very pragmatic, honest, and single-minded person. He's not the type who will be easily tempted. Don't worry and marry him. Pa. Hearing this, Jiang Xiaoche was so angry that he smashed his phone. Sending Siyu to test Wang Ling had failed, but Jiang Xiaoche still hadn't given up. He felt that something must have gone wrong. After paying Suyu as agreed, Jiang Xiaoche still intended to continue with Wang Ling. In fact, he had gotten some inspiration from Suyu. The Wukong system's artificial intelligence matching function had combined the information he had entered about Wang Ling to find the most suitable person. But as for the labels he had previously entered, dead fish eyes, indifferent, oily bottle, iron fool, likes to steal other people's women, some of them were Jiang Xiaoche's own stereotype of Wang Ling, while others were random labels he had added out of jealousy. In fact, they hadn't been objective and fair. In a situation where it was unfair, the girl he had been matched with would naturally be inaccurate. Jiang Xiaoche sighed. He had discovered his mistake. Fortunately, this discovery had been timely. He then began to constantly warn himself in his mind. Put aside your prejudices, be objective and fair, and write down Wang Ling's shining points in the labels. Only in this way could he be matched with a more accurate girl through the large database. Bracing himself, he deleted the labels he had randomly added, and then began to enter some new labels from the perspective of the old man and Suyu's analysis: dead fish eyes, cold on the outside but warm on the inside, sultry on the inside, pragmatic, honest, steadfast, single-minded, good handwriting, fair skin, also handsome. As he typed in the labels, Jiang Xiaoche held back a mouthful of blood in his heart. He felt like he was going to inject internal injuries. In order to trip up his rival in love, he actually had to praise his rival in love first. Jiang Xiaoche would never have imagined that such a miraculous operation would happen to him. A few minutes later. In front of the computer, Jiang Xiaoqi wiped his sweat. This time, the labels he had entered were sufficiently objective and fair. There shouldn't be any more problems with the Wukong system. Very quickly, the system's electronic voice sounded again. Dear Mr. Jiang, Xiaokong has recommended you a local girl from Shanghai City. Please check her out. This time, the system was a 96% match. Opening the girl's profile, Jiang Xiaoqi couldn't help rubbing his eyes. He was sure he hadn't seen wrong. Because the girl in the photo actually bore some resemblance to Lotus Sun, but Jiang Xiaoqi was very sure that this definitely wasn't Lotus Sunday, so there's actually such a similar person in this world. Jiang Xiaoqi's eyes lit up. He didn't know what it felt like to fall in love at first sight. But now, he was sure that he had already fallen in love with this girl. Jiang Yingying. What a good name. Jiang Xiaoqi recited the girl's profile. Then, he quickly sent a friend request to this girl called Jiang Yingying. Big sister, wanna go out? 3 seconds later, Jiang Xiaoqi was directly blacklisted. Wang Ling couldn't help but sigh when he saw this scene on the screen. In the middle of the night, he had inexplicably received more than 30 explicit friend requests. Wang Ling knew that someone was definitely up to no good. Then, he immediately deduced that it was Jiang Xiaoqi, and knew that Jiang Xiaoqi was fishing. Unfortunately, some people ended up getting themselves caught in the act of fishing. Chapter 1376. Today, Jiang Xiaoqi smashed 2 phones. The first time he smashed it was because Su Yu's words provoked him. The second time was because he was rejected by Jiang Yingying. This incident tells us a truth. When life is not going your way, you can have nothing, but you must have a lot of cell phones. Mainly for the convenience of smashing. Nokia is no longer useful in the cultivation world. Unless it had been blessed by Wang Ling otherwise, as long as a cultivator with a certain level of cultivation smashed it, it would shatter. Looking at the 2 shattered phones on the ground, Jiang Xiaoqi took a deep breath. He felt that he had completely calmed down. He also knew how to deal with his relationship with Jiang Yingying, as well as with Lotus Sunday. Only children make choices. He wanted them all. With that in mind, Jiang Xiaoqi took out a 3rd phone from his pocket and began the next step of his plan. As for Jiang Yingying, he still had to make an appointment with her. This was the first time he had seen a girl who looked so similar to Lotus Sunday. It would be a pity to let her go so easily. On Wang Ling's side, with the failure of Su Yu's plan, Jiang Xiaoqi knew that he might not be able to move this blockhead with a simple seduction skill. He began to think of a good play. Suppose he and Lotus Sun were put together in the same place, and put them both in danger at the same time. If he were to lend a hand at that time, wouldn't he be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? It's just 2 foundation establishment cultivators. Creating a fake crisis wasn't a difficult task for Jiang Xiaoqi. The hero saving the damsel in distress was a cliché. But as the saying goes, only tricks can win people's hearts. Jiang Xiaoqi had even thought of the time to make his move. On the way out of number 60 high school on the first day of school next Monday, Wang Ling, if you have the guts, don't leave school. After returning from the demon world with Lotus Sun and Loopy Toad, the monk received news from Battle's sect that grenade-throwing senior immortal wanted to discuss collecting the materials to make the new Rubik's Cube. As the most experienced person, Monk Golden Lamp naturally became a ready-made consultant. With the brand new mysterious sea, Lotus Sun had already witnessed the power of the alluring sword. Lotus Sun simply couldn't imagine that such tremendous power could come from her thin and weak body. When he used the city-toppling sword, she thought of Wang Ling. The power contained in classmate Wang Ling's body was probably beyond anyone's imagination or comparison. Lotus Sun was well aware of this. Compared with Wang Ling, the power he currently possessed was probably just a drop in the ocean. However, without the monk's help, she would never be able to reach this level of combat strength in her entire life. After witnessing the power of the alluring sword, the girl felt a sense of duty and responsibility. Furthermore, she began to understand Wang Ling's troubles a little. Thinking of this, she frowned and couldn't help but sigh in front of the monk. Lotus Sun, it's really a very vexing thing to be unable to control one's power when it's too great. I hope classmate Wang Ling can find a way to precisely control his strength as soon as possible. The Golden Lamp monk smiled. We'll definitely find it. Thank you so much, Senior. Lotus Sun held Mysterious Sea as she expressed her thanks again. Miss Sun is too polite. However, this poor monk still has a word of advice. Miss Sun, please listen carefully. Tyrant smiled. Mysterious Sea might be powerful, but it can be controlled. Usually, Miss Sun could suppress most of her enemies with just her sword energy. Miss Sun's city-toppling sword was her greatest killing move at the current stage. You mustn't use it lightly unless you have no other choice. Lotus Sun, I understand, Senior. I will definitely use this power carefully. A woman doesn't lose to a man. With Miss Sun's words, this poor monk can rest assured. The monk nodded. Everything that needed to be said had been said. His face-shaping competition promise could also be considered to have officially come to an end. City-toppling sword was Lotus Sun's current killing move. In fact, if Mysterious Sea had multiple core worlds in its body, this killing move could be upgraded to another level. But to build multiple core worlds into the spirit sword space, one would need to fuse multiple Rubik's Cubes. It wasn't easy to obtain a Heavenly Tao Rubik's Cube to fuse with Mysterious Sea. The monk didn't even dare think about a multi-core spirit sword. If Mysterious Sea had 2 cores, it would be able to unleash the power of City-Toppling Sword. With 3 cores, it would be able to unleash City-Toppling Sword. But now, even if Mysterious Sea was a single core, Lotus Sun would already be able to enjoy it. It had really risen to the level of 3 cores. The monk thought that the spirit of the earth might go crazy. Nowadays, a foundation establishment cultivator could use City-Toppling Sword to blow it up. Just the thought of it was enough to make one collapse. Then, Miss Sun, Benefactor Toad and I will take our leave now. We still have to go to Battle Sect later. Alright, please go ahead, Senior. Holding Mysterious Sea, Lotus Sun bowed to the monk, then turned her gaze to Loopy Toad and rubbed its head. Loopy Toad, when you go back, thank classmate Wang Ling for me. Loopy Toad replied, Croak. I got it. You should also send a message. It's no big deal. Lotus Sun's face turned red again. I haven't thought about how to say it to classmate Wang Ling yet. She felt that it might be very hard for Loopy Toad to understand this kind of feeling. She couldn't say exactly what she was feeling. It was just that every time she sent a message, she would frenetically struggle with her wording, for fear that she would say something embarrassing about Wang Ling. In the end, after several hours, she had revised this very simple sentence hundreds of times, but in the end, she still hadn't sent it. It was all stored in the draft box. Can you let me see your phone? Loopy Toad asked at that moment. It knew that this was actually a very rude question. What do you want to do? Lotus Sun asked. I just want to see what you've written, so that I can better convey your meaning. Loopy Toad smiled kindly. Alright, but don't flip through it. Lotus Sun carefully handed the phone over. Staring at the phone, Loopy Toad was startled by the number on the draft box. You actually sent 218 messages. I really just didn't know how to say it. Lotus Sun was also very helpless. She was about to take the phone back when she suddenly saw Loopy Toad actually press its paw on it. Loopy Toad, what are you doing? Lotus Sun hurriedly snatched the phone back. Croak. It's nothing, I just wanted to help you. At that moment, Loopy Toad had a crafty expression on its face. Lotus Sun was anxious and her face was red. Loopy Toad. Why did you send them all? You don't have the courage to send them, so I'll help you. Send them all, it's no big deal. After saying that, Loopy Toad flicked its tail lightly. Monk, let's go. Very well, Benefactor Toad. The monk nodded. He stifled his laughter and looked like he was watching a good show. A few seconds later, Wang Ling's phone inbox directly exploded. Lotus Sun's messages came in one after another. Wang Ling, this time. I really have to thank you, classmate Wang Ling, I think I understand you a little. It must be very painful for you to have such enormous power, right? Classmate Wang Ling. Thank you for the Heavenly Dao Magic Cube. Mysterious Sea leveled up. It's very useful. Wang Ling, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.